Hello, all you theater lovers, both out and proud and on the DL, and welcome back to Broadway Breakdown, a podcast discussing the history and legacy of American theater's most exclusive address, Broadway. This series is called Grab Bag, and it is covering shows that you submitted and I picked out of a bowl. I am your host, Matt Koplik, the least famous and most opinionated of all the Broadway podcast hosts, and coming back to us today is Podmother of the Breakdown. You last saw her from Passion. You know her. You love her. She continues to put up with me. I don't know why. Miss Ali Gordon.
Wow. Thank you so much. Hey, I just want to say I'm taking like a sober tone because I know this one is serious. So I'm just like, thank you for your consideration, and I'm honored to be here.
Yes, well, because we're talking about a play, and that's just, you have to be serious about it.
We couldn't have been less serious when we talked about Doubt.
I don't remember what we said about Doubt.
We liked it. We liked Doubt.
Yeah.
I told that story about how my mom went to go see it in like 2004 and came home and was like, I don't know what everybody's talking about. The priest did it. And I was like, wow, she had no doubts. She was the only person who had no doubts seeing Doubt. I really respect that.
That is fair. And I do recall that after we watched it at the library together, because I had spent so many years being like, Pillowman was robbed, I walked out of that video recording and I was like, I still think it's the better play, but I get how this was such a phenomenon with that original production. Completely.
The performances were amazing. Do love Pillowman. Have you done Pillowman on this? Have you talked about that?
Didn't you and I talk about Pillowman on this?
On the pod?
I think so, because you did the British invasion and yours was the National Theater. So yes. I know on that, I feel like
did we touch on it?
I feel like we did.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, we did Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. We did Equus. And then I could have sworn the third one was Pillowman.
Unless that makes sense.
Unless it was Warhorse.
Warhorse?
Part of me thinks it was Warhorse, but I think it was Pillowman.
We did two horses? We did Equus and Warhorse?
I don't think we did Warhorse, but I can't get, now we said Warhorse so many times it sounds weird
Warhorse.
To me. Warhorse. We're talking about
what's coming to town? We're going to go see Warhorse.
We're going to see Warhorse. We're doing a different Warhorse today. We are doing another episode on the great works, Angels in America, Part 1 and 2, Millennium Approaches and Perestroika.
Wow. Okay, the reason I was saying I was taking a sober tone wasn't just because we were talking about a play. First of all, this is my favorite play. I think beyond it being my favorite play, I do think it is the greatest work of American fiction written. If you want to be really fair, American drama, but like I would genuinely go to bat to say it is like the best piece of American fiction of the 20th century. Like I think of books, movies, everything. It is like, to me, it is like the definitive work of the 20th century. I love it. I think I read it all in one sitting for the first time in, I'm going to say 2005, because I was getting my hair chemically straightened because it was a really bad time to be a teenager in the 2000s. Just a really, really rough time to be a young woman. So, I had like hair down my ass. You've talked about it before. I had Eponine hair. So I was getting my Eponine hair chemically straightened.
The problem with having you on the podcast, Ali, is that we go down such rabbit holes of our history.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so many things that we say require more explanation. For example, me saying that you have Eponine hair. It came about because when Ali was at Stage Door, it was your first summer there, right?
Yeah, it was my first ever, yeah.
We did not overlap at Stage Door, but we were already close friends by that point. And our friends, Rachel and friend of the pod, Natalie Walker, were in that Les Mis with you. And you all called me when the cast list came out and Natalie was Fantine. And they were like, oh, and Ali Gordon is Eponine. And my response was,
well, it makes sense. She's got Eponine hair.
Yeah.
And it was freshly chemically straightened, as we can attest.
Yes. And so now we joke about how Ali Gordon has Eponine hair because it was just like one of those random things that we all thought about and just went, no, absolutely. I see what you mean. It totally makes sense.
It all makes perfect sense, which basically means like long hair with no layers and no style, just sort of down past the middle of your back. I just didn't know what to do with my hair. I have curly hair now. That's what I've realized. But it took me until 2020 to figure that out. So when I was 15, I didn't know that. So this is like early. And I think probably on my phone, I had like texting and Snake. It's not like you were like on Instagram. So you like would bring books to read. And I remember I brought like a book and I was like not enjoying that. And I brought Angels in America. And so I cracked the first page and was like, what the fuck? And then immediately read the rest of it. Like, in the entire, I think it was like an 8-hour sitting. And I read like the whole thing in that sitting and have been obsessed with it since then.
So wait, was the HBO miniseries not your introduction then?
No.
Oh my God. Okay, I totally Mandela affected your intro to Angels in America because that was my introduction to it was the HBO miniseries.
I mean, this is certainly something we can get into more. I think that is an amazing introduction to it. There are very few things where if somebody watches the film version, your reaction is, that's great. That's amazing. That's probably one of the best versions of that ever. But like, it's funny. The two things I feel that way about are Amadeus and Angels in America, where it's
Yeah.
like, if you want to know more about it, you should absolutely read the script. You should learn more about it. You should see other versions of it. There's so much more to like dig into. But like, I find the HBO version of Angels in America to be like so exquisite. I think all of its cuts are smart. I think all of its restructures are smart. I think the cast is great. So like, again, not to kick the can down the road, but we can talk more about that later. But I think for many people, it is their first introduction. And I think it's a great introduction.
Yeah.
It's not one of those things where I hear people go like, well, I haven't read it. And I'm like, you've completely missed the whole point. Like, it's like, oh yeah, you should read it if you liked it because there's so much more to learn. But
Yeah.
it's a great version of it.
I remember talking about this with Alex Weissman just in terms of when people aren't exposed to something that I love or know something that I know, I get very excited to show it to them or introduce them to it. I'm never like, oh my God, you've never read Angels. I'm like, oh my God, you've never read Angels? Like,
Right. You're like, there's some crazy shit in there. You got to get in there.
it's very Abby on Broad City when she's like, oh my God, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. Because like you get
Yes.
to experience it for the first time.
If I had to like try to come up with an analogy, it's like I feel like the HBO miniseries is like a perfectly shot arrow. The arrow pull was like taut. The arrow whizzed through the air. It was efficient. It like landed right in the bullseye, and you were like, hot damn, I'm Robin Hood. So that was a bad analogy because it had nothing to do with anything. But do you know what I'm saying? It's just like a satisfying, efficient shoot. You know what I mean? It just like hits the target, and it didn't take any detours. So
Yeah.
like what's kind of fun about reading it is that like there is all this other stuff that kind of got like scenes that got cut, things that got rearranged, little detours with other characters like the Mormon real estate agent who has that scene with Hannah at the end of Millennium Approaches. Like that scene is not necessary. But when you read it, you're like, I just learned so much more about Hannah. I feel like I got like a special secret insight that like from watching the movie, I didn't get that. And so I didn't need it, but I'm like so appreciative for it. It was almost like a little secret diversion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's also the inverse of how these things usually go. Like in a play, you're told of something that's happening off stage, and in the movie version, they're like, oh, we can add the scene to show that
Totally.
happening. And Angels, it's like they show the scene of Hannah Pitt selling her house, and in the movie, they just talk about it. Like it's
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, I hear you. Having the HBO miniseries be my exposure and then getting into the play after the fact. And I talked about this as well in part one, but I'm going to be repeating myself all the time, dear listener. I did in, I think, junior year of high school or sophomore year, can't remember which, did do the Prior Harper hallucination dream scene for an acting class because I just fell so deeply in love with the play after buying the scripts and seeing the miniseries. And then I got to see it at Signature with Christian Borle. I then saw the National Theater broadcast with Andrew Garfield, then saw it live on Broadway. And then at some point, Aurora Spider-Woman released like 40 minutes of press reels of the original Broadway company.
Do you think we have ever done an episode where we haven't talked about Aurora Spider-Woman?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
Not you and I, no.
The secret third character of all of our conversations is Aurora Spider-Woman.
It sure is.
It's sort of like when people like leave room for Jesus. Like when you and I are slow dancing, we are always leaving room for Aurora Spider-Woman.
Well, because Aurora likes a lot of the same shit we do.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm subscribed. Are you kidding? When a notification comes up, I'm like, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels original, like off, like, preview. Count me in. Like, it doesn't have to be a show I like. I'm just like, he just finds shit that I'm just like, oh, I need to see that.
Yeah, he has so much shit. Like, and a lot of it, like, going back to the 70s, which is insane. But I remember when he posted it, he eventually had to take it down, and then somebody else reposted it, thank God. But just in those 40 minutes, and I'm talking like some clips are 40 seconds, some are 3 minutes,
right.
And
some are full scenes, some are literally like one-liners.
Yes, and it's of both parts. And something just clicked in my brain. And I talked about this to Alex as well. I have not seen the original Broadway company yet. I have made an appointment at the library. I'll be watching it after this episode.
Sweet.
And before I record with Rob Schneider. And but watching those clips, something just clicked with me. I was like, oh, I never quite realized how incredibly funny this play can be. I always knew it was funny. Like you can't watch Angels and not laugh a couple of times. But watching that original cast, many of whom had been a part of it since the inception, and George C. Wolfe, literally firing off at all cylinders, and just like the audience keeling over, like laugh after laugh before
the pace clips the fuck along.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a triumph of directing, but it's also the actors like really not like reveling in the beauty of the language or the drama of the scenes. They are just like the pace is runaway train. It's so great.
Every version of Angels we get is reliant on two things, who's the director and sort of what their tone is. And then also like, where are we in history when it's coming?
Mm-hmm.
And so they talk about this in World Only Spins Forward. When it was being written, we were towards the end of the Reagan years. When it finally premiered in San Francisco, it was the Bush administration, Bush Sr. And then by the time it finally got to Broadway, we had just begun the Clinton years. And then when the HBO miniseries came out, it was post 9/11 and towards the end of the first Bush, W administration.
Yeah. Again, then, Bush again.
Exactly. And when the
Bush perestroika,
and then when the National was being rehearsed in London, that was like the beginning of the Trump administration and coming to New York. So sometimes it is anger, sometimes it is despair, sometimes it is hope, and sometimes it's just sort of ponderous. Like I feel like the Nichols HBO series, it's perhaps the least overtly funny of all the versions, because like Nichols on camera doesn't, when he's doing something like an Angels in America, he doesn't lean into comedy like he does with something like The Birdcage or The Graduate. He's a little more respectful, which is not to say that
so funny. I do think it is quite funny.
No,
not all of it, but there's a lot of it that I think really gets the sense of humor.
Oh no, for sure. What I mean is, it's not unfunny. I think it is far funnier than the National Theater production, which is funnier than
way funnier.
Which was a funnier production than I remembered it being when I rewatched it with Alex, but it is still like they still lose at least half of the laughs there. The HBO miniseries is way funnier than that, but there are moments where it's played a little more intimately, and obviously that's for camera, but like the way that Patrick Wilson plays Joe, he's like a little bit more of a soft boy, quiet suffering, not like a true anguish suffering, which then informs how Mary Louise Parker plays Harper, who's much more like clearly high on Valium and thus like isn't leaning into the childlike wonderment and not like hitting as many punchlines as like a Marcia Gay Harden does.
Yes, they could not be more different.
Yeah.
I really like both of them so much. I feel like I could talk forever about the differences in their performance, but like how much I think they both work.
Oh yeah, there's also, and I said this before, but I'll say it again, like no one is bad in the miniseries. Everyone is pretty wonderful. I think the weakest performance is Emma Thompson.
She's funny.
I think she's only kind of funny as the Angel. I think her best
really?
performance. I think her best
she's
performance
really
is
funny.
I think her best performance is as the homeless woman. I think she nails that scene.
I also love her as Emily, as the nurse.
The nurse.
Oh, I think she's fantastic as the nurse. I have met that woman. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when she comes out, I'm like, oh, I know her.
Well,
she has triaged me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like I know that woman.
We are going to get to this at some point, but I will say, we are recording this the day after I saw Betty Gilpin in Oh Mary.
Oh my God! Wait, can we diverge? I want to know. Do we have time?
Sure. No, she's really wonderful in it. First of all, Mary Tyler Lincoln has a lot of parallels to Harper Pitt in many ways, and
I'm loving this. This is some really. Right. No one's ever said this before, and I love this.
I didn't clock it until I watched Betty, because I was like, "Oh,
I love this.
Like, this is a woman who's suffering, who is using external."
Her gay husband. There's so much.
Her gay husband, who all he wants is pretty white boy lips. He says so himself in his monologue to God.
Wow.
And she's using external chemicals to self-medicate, and ultimately she sort of releases herself from him in the end. But it is at the root of both stories is a woman who is in immense pain and suffering and confusion, doesn't really know what's going on. So much is happening behind her back, and she's being manipulated left and right. And so I was watching Betty Gilpin, and I was like, oh, I think a couple of years ago she would have been a really phenomenal Harper.
Oh, I would have loved to see that.
But where she's at now, she would be an incredible angel
Would love to see that too.
because she's so, first of all, she's so fucking gorgeous, which is dumb that she can also be as funny as she is. But she's so gorgeous. She can go so for broke, but she can go for broke while also finding the comedy. Because the thing about the angel is you have to be so grand, but also like there's a lot of humor to it.
Yeah. God, I saw her years ago in a play. Maybe it was an Anna Ziegler play. Oh God, it was about a woman who was an actress and her father who was an actor. Well, gender is a construct. And it was like her just like desperate for his attention, and they had like a really, really a terrible relationship, and it was a lot about abuse and drinking. God, what the fuck play was that?
I don't know.
Oh, I wish I could remember, because she was really excellent in it, and it was around the time that she would have been the right age to play Harper, and she should have. There's
a lot she should have and still could do if she had people like us on her shoulders being like, "Hey, Betty, you wanna?" So getting a little further into angels, and actually speaking of the character of the angel, which I feel like we talked about this in the first episode, but to make it extraordinarily clear, the character of Prior Walter, after he's been diagnosed with AIDS and is released from the hospital, you know, in a very bad spell of his infection, is starting to have what he thinks are hallucinations of his ancestors, informing him that he is a prophet, that his family is a family of prophets. And so Millennium Approaches ends with him being visited by an angel who tells him that the great work will begin.
Right.
And then, or the actual line is, the great work begins. The messenger has arrived. And then Perestroika is Prior discovering that he's a prophet, speaking with the angel about the human race, the existence of God and the abandonment from God, and being inserted with this holy text from the heavens that he is supposed to now spout on earth. And once he is given this book, his health deteriorates immensely. And once he sort of rejects the book in heaven is when he's able to do much better health-wise. So a question that many people talk about, and I wanted to sort of pitch it to you, is, do you think the angel is actually real? And is there an argument to be made that the angel is not real, and that there's a reason why the visions start coinciding with Prior's new medication post-hospital?
Totally. Okay, so I mean, I'm going to give you an answer that is my truth, but I maybe is an infuriating answer, which is that it doesn't matter.
Of course it doesn't matter.
Well, do you know what I'm saying? But I think that is a strength of the script. Like, yes. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, like, what a dumb question, it doesn't matter. I'm saying, what an amazing question. Isn't it incredible that it doesn't matter? It's kind of like, I mean, it's Wizard of Oz, and it's true because he says it when he wakes up. He goes, people come and go so strangely around here. Like, he makes like 2 or 3 different Wizard of Oz references throughout.
As well as some of it was wonderful and some of it was terrible. Exactly. But all the same, I asked to go home and they sent me home. Yeah.
And they sent me home. Yeah. They he talks about it a lot. So like, it's obviously intentional. We're not smarter than Tony Kushner. But that is sort of the amazing thing where it's like, you can watch Wizard of Oz and go, she went to Oz, or you can watch Wizard of Oz and go, she got hit in the head and realized how much she wanted to go home. And it doesn't really matter because like ultimately the lesson was what lesson, and she did it. And so it's like, I think all of the magical realism elements in the show are incredible because they could happen or they couldn't. And it almost doesn't really, it could be about like the triumph of the human spirit alone. It could be about like a miraculous divine intervention. Is God really dead, and or like did he really like abandon us and go away? Is heaven a series of desks with clerical working angels? Do you know what I mean? It's like they're amazing questions, but it's like whether or not you believe it doesn't change how these characters interact with each other, which I think is like such an incredible feat. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I think it's like an amazing feat of storytelling.
No,
do you want me to just say whether or not I think it happened?
Yeah, I more wanted your personal take, because there is no right or wrong answer. Because I think there is so much compelling evidence for both, and there's no definite answer. As you said, I don't think Kushner wants there to be a definite answer. He worked very hard to give us both options and have both make sense.
Right.
But I wanted to hear your take. And
I mean,
and why.
I like it. I want it to be real. I
Yeah.
like the fantastical elements of the play. It just appeals to me. So like, I want the angel to be real. I want him to have gone to heaven and made an appeal, and for them to have like reversed his fate. I want Ethel Rosenberg to be a ghost and have come out of the, to be haunting him, but also give him his final passage with the Kaddish. I do mean, like, I like it because I think it's all just great storytelling. So like, I like the fantasy elements of it. I do think it's very funny that like, I think if you have no familiarity with the show, with the exception of like the little Mr. Lies stuff that happens at the beginning and the threshold revelation, where it's like there's just the teensiest, weensiest little hints of like, oh, magic. But then suddenly the heralds arrive, the two priors, the priors, and then you're like, what is this? What's going to happen in this play? And then it like completely cracks open and becomes a new play. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no. Well, I guess earlier in the show, when he's at the doctor's office, the flaming book comes out of the ground.
But that only he can see.
That only he can see. That feels like the first time that something happens where you're like, is this a dream or is something truly magical happening?
Yeah.
I want something truly magical to happen. I like it.
Yeah. The thing is that all of the afterlife, prophet, angel stuff, none of that starts to happen until after Pryor comes home from the hospital. But there are other elements of magic prior to that, as well as post that have nothing to do with the angel, or even technically speaking with Pryor. The scene. So I think that the miniseries, it's a little more gray area, probably intentionally so, because, and I know I mentioned this before, but like Pryor and Harper only have one scene together in the miniseries.
Right. And in the play, they have another in the Mormon
They've got
Visitor.
three. Yeah, they got three. They have the Mormon Visitor Center, and then
later in heaven.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that scene. I completely forgot about
scene.
that.
Yeah,
that's a great scene.
Because when they're earthbound, they don't recognize each other. They just sort of feel like, I might have met you once before, and I can't place it when it doesn't matter anyway. Like, let's just sit down and watch the diorama. But when they're in heaven, in this sort of limbo area, they're like, oh, I totally remember you, and they don't even remember the Mormon Visitor Center. They just remember the last
when they met, like
in the vision dream.
Miracle sphere.
Exactly.
I don't know.
But when they're at the Mormon Visitor Center, they both see the same vision of Lewis and Joe having this argument about Joe being Mormon together and leaving the stage. And that's where, in the play, where I'm like, I don't think it's in Pryor's head. I think there are things going
magical
on in the
elements.
world. Yeah, exactly. In the world of this play.
Well, I mean, like, I also think one thing that's fun about the magical elements is that, like, they're sort of gifted to a bunch of different people. And I think that's really interesting because it's like, sure, you could argue that, like, okay, Pryor's having visions and Roy are having visions because they're both very sick and they're both on different medications and their bodies are failing them. So, they're having visions. And then but then it's like, oh, well, Harper can have visions. She's on drugs. But then when it all starts to coalesce into being the same visions, that's when it's like, okay, I can't just write this off as being, you're sick, so you're having a vision. You're high, so you're having a vision. Like, the play does sort of say, like, no, look, we're experiencing the same thing at the same time. How can you have a joint hallucination? It must be magic. It must be real. You must be touched. I like that these people who are, like, profoundly suffering are, like, granted these visions. I like that. That feels so poetic to me.
Well, so speaking of visions, and I mentioned this with Alex, but I want to talk about it more with you because we didn't really talk about Harper as a character as much as I would like to. We actually talked about Hannah quite a lot, and we'll talk about everyone because it's you and me. We'll talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about.
And you know who my favorite character is, like, with like leaps and bounds of space, right?
Is it Lewis?
Like, like, I'm obsessed. No, I'm obsessed with Joe Pitt. I'm obsessed with Joe.
Oh, I did know that.
I'm obsessed with Joe. I think Joe is, like, the best character in the world.
Okay, we'll talk about that because he's not thrown under the bus in World Only Spins Forward, but Tony Kushner is sort of thrown under the bus by a lot of the people who've done Angels when they all said, Tony has been really great in this play of, like, not creating a villain. But then like everyone goes, having said that, I do think he's the most judgmental of Joe and like kind of gives him a shitty ending.
Yes, Joe's the only person who does not like get to like come together in the end and have this like beautiful moment where you get to see how much these characters have changed and grown and da 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 da. But that makes me more fascinated with him. I just want to know what happens to Joe.
Yeah. Well, so, and we'll talk about Joe as well, because we sort of had a discussion of what could happen. There's the scene that Kushner writes in the miniseries for Joe to kind of give him some hope. And then there's a revised version of Perestroika where they add a scene where Joe hallucinates Roy or just has a meeting with Roy's ghost. Yes. Unclear. And, that's sort of Joe's first vision, one could say. And maybe it's because he is just in so much pain at that point.
Right. He's profoundly suffering.
Yeah. I think Hannah says someone's like great desire being so in need ultimately is what gives them the vision of an angel. Like angels come to those who need it most.
Completely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I find all this like, that is all reasons why it's more fun to just be like, yeah, it all happened. It all totally happened. Do you know what I mean?
I'm trying to find the exact line she says about what an angel is. She says something like along the lines of an angel is a dream or an idea, something like that. It's in Perestroika when she takes Prior to the hospital.
Yeah.
God damn it, what is it?
I'm also searching. I have this ripped up.
An angel is a belief with wings and arms that can carry you. If it lets you down, reject it. Which I love that. I love how business-like she is, where he's like, but all this stuff with angels and God, and then she's like, if it's not what you want, like, say fuck it. Like, it's...
Right.
Like, they are not immune to rejection.
And I also love him just being like, well, what happens when you reject... What happens when you reject a vision, when you reject an angel? And she's like, well, you usually die.
Yeah. I think she says, God feeds you to a whale.
God feeds you to a whale. It's just so funny. It's like...
It's great. Like, so many funny lines. Okay, I want to talk about Harper specifically and the talk of her in visions and sort of her whole MO and her relationship with Joe. Before we do that, Allie, let's take a quick break.
Really, I beg to differ with you. How do you mean? You're the top. Yeah. You're an arrow color. You're the top. You're a Coolidge dollar. You're the nimble tread of the feet of Fred Astaire.
And we're back. So, describe Harper Pitt to the uncultured fucks, Ali Gordon. Who is Harper? What's her deal?
Harper is the wife of Joe Pitt. They are Mormons living in Brooklyn because Joe works as a clerk. So he works in law, and so he's in New York. She is sort of unhappily in New York. She is a very sensitive soul who has obviously come from a very difficult life. Her upbringing was not easy. Joe says so much so himself that he was attracted to the vulnerability in her and the hurt in her, and that he sort of saw some of himself in that, and he kind of wanted to save her. So that's his attraction to her, despite not necessarily having a sexual attraction to her. They had a emotional bond. She is a drug addict. Her pills of choice are like Valium and anything that sort of can help her hallucinate, because she suffers paranoia, anxiety, visions. She believes there's a man with a knife under the bed. Do you know what I mean? It's like that kind of stuff.
She has extreme agoraphobia.
Yes.
She
does
almost
not go
never
out.
leaves the house. Yeah.
Exactly. But she's also... like what you said, there is a sort of like childlike wonder, I think, which comes from a very sheltered upbringing where there was a lot of escapism in one form or another because it was not an easy upbringing. And then being like slapdashed into the biggest, craziest city in the world. That might just be my own perception as opposed to like straight up fact from the page, but that's sort of something I feel strongly. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think there's...
like the New York of it all is part of her big dreams and visions. Do you know what I mean?
Because, they moved from Salt Lake City and a fully Mormon community where she's not happy, but she understands it all, and then gets thrown into Brooklyn and the world both terrifies her and fascinates her.
Right. And she does a lot of like looking out the window and like judging what's going on the street. She's like, oh, there's a schizophrenic traffic guard. And it's like, she's just sort of making stories. But there is sort of also this attraction to like the strangeness, the otherness of it, I think.
I think the chaos fascinates her. So for someone who's such a Kiki Dunst fan, it's a shame I haven't seen this movie, but Melancholia.
You've never seen Melancholia?
Okay, see, that judgment of your voice.
This was not judgment. This was excitement because I love that movie.
Yeah, I need to watch it.
Well, it really sometimes I watch it when I'm depressed, which makes no sense because it's such a depressing movie. But she is so depressed in the movie that sometimes I watch it and I go, I'm like eating junk food. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, you're so sad.
Talk about someone else who could have been a great Harper.
She would have been an amazing Harper.
Kirsten Dunst.
And you know who I think? They would never have cast him in it because he's not like the Marlboro Man. But like, I would have loved to see like a young Jesse Plemons' take on Joe.
Sure,
he's got that sensitive anger. I mean, just like, ooh, one of my favorite actors.
We'll talk about casting Joe in a second, but so with having not seen Melancholia, and maybe you can sort of speak more on this for me. What I understand is that the point is that it's her wedding day and she's a depressive, like extreme depressive.
Yes.
And everyone around her is like just trying to get her up and at 'em to have this wedding. And then like in the middle of the reception, it is revealed that the world is going to end. Like
that
Melancholia
happens later.
Okay, but a planet is coming towards Earth.
Yes, a planet is going to collide with Earth. But that happens, the revelation that is definitely happening happens later. But the wedding is a disaster because she's like, so depressed she can't even make it through the happiest night of her life.
Yeah.
And like everybody's like furious with her.
But when it is revealed that the planet is colliding, everyone freaks their shit out, but she kind of weirdly steps up to the plate because
she gets happy.
Yeah.
It's not even that she's like, I'm going to be responsible. She's just like, oh, it's all over. And it's like a sense of relief for her because like life is misery for her. And so while everybody else is panicking and crying and doesn't know what to do and how to say goodbye, she's like achieved a sense of calmness. I'm obsessed with it. As you can tell, I have like a weird, I'm like sort of obsessed and fascinated with like her character journey. Cause like, she's not an easy character. She's like kind of, I'm going to say ugly. And I don't really mean that in a pejorative way. Like, I'm not saying like, it's so ugly to be depressed. Like, I just mean like, it shows a really unglamorous side of sadness in a way that a lot of movies make it seem like, remember in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
Yeah, sexy French depression. Yeah.
Yes. It's like the absolute pinnacle opposite of that is like a person who's like acting like a child almost in how depressed they are, and it's like it's ugly.
Well, it's the difference between it's the difference between Harper and Melancholia. It's sort of like how we talked about with Fosca and Passion, where they challenge the audience of like, not every girl in the bleachers not wearing the short skirt in the Taylor Swift song is the girl that you're supposed to end up with, like is actually cute underneath and sweet and has a wonderful viewpoint of life. Like sometimes the girl in the bleachers is the Unabomber and just like and is as toxic as a Chernobyl urinal cake, to quote Anna Klumsky in Veep. And
I love that. I feel like we should rewrite that song from the perspective of Fosca.
Absolutely.
I think if you want to do that at Broadway Con, I think it'll go over really well with your audience.
When Gray and I do Broadway Con, it'll be Gray's just going to be like, what the fuck is Passion? It'll be like Sondheim wrote a show called Passion. He won't know that.
Gray might know Passion.
He'll know of it. He won't know it. Come on.
Yeah.
This is...
I don't know. I actually don't know.
Well, I say you know Gray better than I do, but I feel like
I don't think we've ever talked about Passion, but I don't know.
Like, unless Josh played it for him in the apartment at some point, or you did. But
I mean, I think it is possible that he was like held at gunpoint by Josh and I while we performed like I Read.
Probably.
Like that seems logical.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I should have lived in your building when lockdown happened, because this was just a production of Angels in America that we missed. We could have had a great production. I would say you as Harper, Josh as Joe, Gray as Pryor, me as Lewis, and Marty as Roy.
And also as Hannah.
And also
Marty
as
in his
Hannah.
Stunning turn.
Going back and forth.
Turn as Roy and Hannah.
Yep. And then you could
actually so great.
And then you would get to be Ethel Rosenberg, so we could make sure that he doesn't have to play two people in one scene. Yeah, we would fuck around with the double casting.
That sounds so fun. I also think one of the things that is missing from I love the HBO version, but there's less double casting because like there can be other characters. And so like while they are fleshed out by a realm of other great actors, I miss the double casting.
Yeah.
Like I love when Harper is Martin Heller because it's Joe in a scene with two people pressuring him to leave her behind. And he's literally looking his wife in the face while he goes like, well, you can't live for your life. You can't let your wife hold you behind. You know what I mean? It's like, I find there's something, and it really nicely mirrors the guy in the park having sex with Lewis being Pryor. Like it feels like that double casting feels so right.
Yeah. You can't disassociate from where your heart actually is, no matter how hard you try. So yeah,
which is very, Wizard of Oz again.
Absolutely. But
it's like everywhere you look, there you are, you know?
Yeah. The thing with Harper is I could argue that Harper is the sort of idyllic pixie dream girl version of depressed and agoraphobic, because in her state, she is so eloquent and so beautiful with how she speaks. She finds the poetry in the ruins of the world in her like Valium days. And the best Harpers are able to live in that space and then try to get themselves back to the world so they can talk about the things that are actually bothering them. Because Joe is not shoving pills down her throat, but Joe is often being intentionally obtuse or misdirecting in conversations with her when she wants to
get to the fucking point. Exactly.
And he won't do it. And that is what drives her to Valium. So he's not literally putting the pills in her hand, but he is giving her the incentive every time to go back to the pills.
Yes. And she also was like craving a sense of control in some way or another. Not in a way where it's like, I want to control you, but because he is so evasive when they talk about anything that gets difficult, even just like, where are we going to live? I don't want to live in Georgetown. The Exorcist was in Georgetown. You know what I mean? Like they can't even have like a fucking conversation about anything. She's got her list of things that are important to her, and he cannot hear it because he's just thinking of the world. He's just trying to get by, and he's just trying to be so pragmatic, and he's just genuinely like trying to like wake up tomorrow and not like kill himself. Do you know what I mean? Like, so they're like bound together by a profound understanding of not being loved. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something that I like have a big, I guess like a real, what's it called? A stick in my craw. Something in my craw. I got something in my craw.
You got a crab in your cooch. That's what you got.
So what gives me a really big crab in my cooch is when Harper's and Joe's don't seem to love each other at all.
Yeah. I
really, really dislike it. He's allowed to be unbelievably frustrated with her. Like sometimes I do like when he loses his temper at her. And I like to see her try to get him to lose his temper because she's like trying to like nudge at him and get him to say things and get him to open up. And so like there is an unhealthy relationship dynamic there. I'm not saying they have a great marriage, but sometimes you see actors play them and there's just no love there. Yeah. And I just don't believe it because they do love each other. And like, there's that amazing scene where he comes home late from work and Harper's still awake, and
the I Burn Dinner scene.
Well, no, not I Burn Dinner. The one where it's like, where he's like, you're my good heart. And like, she's like, he's like, I'll never leave you. And she's like, yeah, but I would leave you. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is that Millennium or is that?
It's in Millennium.
Okay.
And it's before the big fight. It's before like the quartet. Do you know what I mean? Where they like have the like straight, like the real, it's somewhere, scene.
So it's somewhere in between I Burn Dinner and the quartet.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go grab my script.
I think it's, when he's talking about, because he's talking about the painting of
with Jacob wrestling with the angel.
Yes,
he's like, I'm struggling, I'm trying, and like it's like a really nice scene, and like they are hearing each other for the first time in like a long time. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I don't know. They obviously both suffered a real lack of love and understanding in their childhoods. Yeah. Probably physical abuse on both sides. Almost definitely on hers. I feel like it's alluded to pretty clearly, but I wouldn't be surprised also if that's true of Joe with his relationship with his father. Hannah straight up says he didn't love you. Do you know what I mean? It's
like it's implied that Joe had physical abuse in his household. It's straight up said that his dad just like didn't care about him at all, and his mom was really no help either. Harper, I think Joe says that, yeah, she suffered physical abuse.
Yeah.
And it's implied, like, maybe even sexual too. But it's both, yeah, both of them came from bad households where they were not raised in love and definitely sort of found each other as these sort of ports in a storm and
Correct.
almost kind of ran off together. Yeah.
And also, like, at one point, Joe is saying, like, somebody like Harper would have had a very difficult time finding a husband because she's like Jack Mormon, essentially.
Yeah.
Like somebody who's like kind of shunned in their community, like not really a pillar of the faith, like,
Yeah.
you
Kinda
know,
lapsed,
maybe even
right?
already doing, yeah, like, because like they're both Mormon, they're both quote unquote religious when they get married still, but like she just was not, no guy is going to be like, I have to marry that woman.
Yeah.
And that like he saw something in her that I mean, like, look, I don't know how a person would choose to play Joe. I don't know if their feeling is that when they married Harper, he really thought, oh, I understand. Oh, this is love. Oh my God, I don't think I got it. And now I get it. It's wanting to care for somebody. It's wanting to save somebody. It's wanting to make their life better. Oh my God, I guess all this time I didn't know what love was. And now I see it. And this is the woman who makes me feel it. Or if he knew when he married her. Do you know what I mean? Because like she accuses him of that, and he kind of is like, I think maybe I knew when I married you, but like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I don't know how far back he knew he was gay when he married her, but like,
we will talk about Joe more. Joe is a conversation with Harper, because she does say in the I burned dinner scene, she's like, I shouldn't have married you. I knew, and then stops herself. And then she says,
Right.
It's a sin and it's killing us both. And so part of me wonders if by Joe marrying Harper and the community knowing what kind of woman Harper was, and who knows what Joe's history was, if he ever dated in high school or anything like that, it's almost like him choosing to marry her makes everyone kind of side eye and go, why would you do that? If you were serious about a wife and having kids, like why would you go and get her? What's up with you? And sort of almost invites investigation, which might be another reason why they kind of pick up and leave for New York, where no one knows them and no one knows how the Mormon community works. People just hear, oh, Joe has a wife, so he's straight.
right.
Supposedly.
So he's straight, so everything's fine. But also like, I get the sense he was probably like a real golden boy in terms of like trying to like show off everything he had in every other way, which leads to him being like the perfect little student for Roy Cohn, because all he wants to do is impress him and like show his merit.
Do we know much about what Joe is like?
No.
Back in Utah? Yeah. I'm like, I'm sure that I am sure that Tony Kushner has the bio written out, because he's got a bio written out for everybody. They talk about it in World Only Spins Forward when, you know, post Broadway, post national, they're doing productions all over the world in the 90s and early 2000s. And he comes to like visit a regional production where all the actors wrote out their little bios for their characters. And
he's
he
like,
goes
no.
up he's like, that's not right. And he's like, takes a Harper aside. He's like, let me tell you what Harper's deal is.
See,
and
I love that. I love that.
I'm a little double-edged sword about it. I'm like, if they're so off that it is negatively affecting their performance in your eyes, definitely guide them back to the right track. But like, if they are still kind of getting the tone of it and details are off, you know, maybe correct a detail here or there, but don't be like, no, that's not what Harper does. It's giving me very Harry Potter vibes of like, no, I am in control of this entire universe.
Yeah.
But
speaking of Harry Potter, I've only gotten the chance to see Stephen Spinella once, and it was when he was playing Snape and Voldemort in Cursed Child. I passed out at the show. He came on stage. I saw him perform for, I'm going to say 45 seconds. I was like, I think I'm going to pass out. I stumbled into the lobby and I passed out. I had the worst flu of my life and didn't know it. It was like the first day, and then I was like sick for like probably a month following that. So I never really got to see Stephen Spinella.
I saw Stephen Spinella in Spring Awakening. He was the adult man in the original cast. So
did I see the original? I might not have.
You might not have. I don't know your life, but that's hilarious.
But either way,
I do know your life. But
it was really tragic. I was like, this show's bad, but at least I'm going to see Stephen Spinella. and then you didn't even get to see him. I know.
The other thing I was going to say about Joe and Harper with their getting married, with him seeing her and all that, I mean, I'm sure part of it is like wanting to do good, seeing a broken soul, wanting to help, and also recognizing your own brokenness. But I also think for someone like Joe, who is constantly questioning his masculinity, seeing someone who is so, in his viewpoint, weak and vulnerable and in need of saving, makes him feel more like a man.
Totally. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that is like a conscious.
No, I don't think he's. Yeah, I don't
think
think
it's just like it's a heart gut impulse thing of just like, if I can protect her,
Yeah, he's
this
not
is what a good
malevolent.
husband does.
No, he's not malevolent. But I do, and it's sort of what you were saying of when you play Harper and Joe, you got to have some sort of love there. Not only because it makes it make a little more sense, it's also just more interesting. If you only play anger and annoyance with each other, that's boring to me. So
Yes.
for Joe, you're not sitting there like twiddling your fingers like Mr. Burns with like, yes, Harper, be the weak one I want you to be. But there is a part of him that prefers Harper when she is just so desperately in need of him.
Yes, 100%.
And also,
And when she starts like lashing out,
yeah,
it's her way of sort of like establishing a level of control in the relationship, not because he's controlling her, but because there is no way to control the tempest that she like can become. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, I can escape, I can go places, I can run away, I can burn dinner, I can do things just because I can. Because you know what I mean? Like when he's like, why did you burn dinner? And she's like, because I could. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's literally her answer. It isn't because I fucking hate you and I didn't want you to eat dinner. It's literally because I was alone and I could, and it seemed like the kind of thing a crazy housewife does. I just like put it back in and I watched it burn. Like, you know what I mean?
and also like what do I have to do to get you to sit down and talk to me?
Exactly.
yeah.
And she's just like searching for control.
Yeah.
I liked Denise Gow and James McArdle. I liked them both individually, and I liked them.
James played Lewis. It was Russell.
Yes. Oh,
so it was
sorry,
Russell Tovey.
Sorry.
And then, so did you see Lee Pace do it on Broadway?
Yes.
Okay.
So I've seen both. I loved Lee Pace.
As did I.
I thought he was a very, very unusual Joe, and I really, really liked him a lot.
He is the best Joe that I have seen so far. I look forward to seeing David Marshall Grant at the library soon, but of seeing Wilson, Pace, Russell Tovey, and then I think it was Bill Heck who did it.
It was Bill Heck.
Yes.
Because they also weirdly, did you ever watch that like oh God, I wish it was called, it was called The Ballad of Buster. Yeah, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. He and Zoe Kazan had another thing together where they were paired together. Do you know what I'm talking about? On Netflix?
I've never seen the movie. It's Coen Brothers, right?
It's Coen Brothers, and it's like a series of stories, and one of the stories, weirdly, is Bill Heck and Zoe Kazan again.
Yeah. Well, I just love that you're like, oh God, that random thing. It was called, I don't know, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Well, it took a minute for it to come back. I couldn't remember at first.
The signature production overall was very underwhelming for me. The two things I liked the most about it were Christian Borle's Pryor and Frank Wood's Roy Cohn.
Loved him. Did you like Zachary Quinto?
That is probably the most I've liked Zachary Quinto on stage. I remember seeing him in it and being like, I think you've got a lot of potential to be a great Lewis. And then I did not really like him in anything I saw him on stage since then. So in my opinion on that performance has soured.
I thought it was I thought it was a really unusual take on Lewis. And as just like a fan, like, do you know what I mean? When people are like, I'm just like a fan of the game. Like as a fan of the game, I was like, this is really interesting. Like I've never really like seen a Lewis with like so much like sexual charisma.
Sure.
But I'm not sure if he was like the Lewis of my like platonic ideal.
He played really deeply into the toxicity of Lewis, because I just think that's sort of where Zachary Quinto lives. He lives in pain and just not that he is gross, but he likes playing the grossness of characters.
Yes, he did a really good job with like the self-loathing and the like stupid decisions made out of self-loathing.
Yeah.
But like I did not believe him at all in any of like in like the scene where he like sits and talks with Belize and is like, maybe I deserve this thing on my head. It's the mark of Cain. I was like, you don't give a shit. Like the deep like neurosis. I didn't get it.
It didn't help that he had Billy Porter's Belize to play off of, which we will leave it there for the sake of being positive.
I agree with that. I'm not going to say anything.
No more about that. But actually, I will just say this: like, talk about not getting any laughs. That's the only thing I'll say.
Yeah.
But with the Joe and Harper's, as we could sort of continue on Harper and start leaning into Joe. We talk about how Harper's always like, what do I have to do to get your attention, to get you to sit down and fucking talk to me? I think Joe doesn't want to talk about real things for a couple of reasons. One, control. Two, Harper for as much as he talks down to her and tries to sort of infantilize her, hey, buddy kiss, things like that, she can see right through him because she can see right through a lot of people.
Right.
She's incredibly insightful. And a question I gave to Alex in the last episode, and I want to hear your thoughts on this too, is like, is Harper also maybe like not a lapsed prophet, but a prophet who maybe slipped through the paperwork in heaven? Because
yes. And what I like about this show is that it says that like many people in great suffering have the capacity to be that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they like start to touch on a little bit of the like the ability to see something beyond the veil.
Yeah.
And I love that at the end it goes from like my visions and the things that I see freak me out and make me feel disassociated from the world to her like feeling like an ownership of it when she's like, because of my amazing ability to see such things, when she's talking about like seeing the souls, like that's said with a sense of like pride and satisfaction as opposed to like, oh God, I'm looking out the window and I see souls. You know what I mean? It's like I have my amazing ability to see such things has given me the chance to see this like amazing, beautiful thing that like shows that the world only spins forward. It's gorgeous.
You know what it is? You know what fucking M. Night Shyamalan stole from that? It's that for Sixth Sense, where Haley Joel Osment is terrified of all the dead people he can see until he realizes, or Bruce Willis helps him realize, like, these are people who need closure, people who have messages to give to loved ones, and you can do that.
You can do it.
This is not a curse. This is a gift if you use it correctly. And Harper has realized that, like, yes, she has visions, but like they're so crystallized and clear. There's got to be something good about that, because something about we learn from Pryor when he goes to visit heaven, and we sort of talked about this as well, but like we get the angel, and Pryor is told from this angel in Perestroika, stop moving, stop progressing. Like, don't you understand? It'll be the end of the world if humans
virus of time. Yes,
because you were an experiment. The human race was an experiment that God created because he got bored fucking the angels one day. Yeah. And he got super into you guys, and then something shifted in him and he was bored with you too, and he left. And you guys are too dumb to know like what you do. And we see all of it. We can see the future. We see where this is heading. And Pryor goes to heaven and he sees them all. He's like, no, you don't. He's like, you're bad at what you do. You basically were liberal arts students who got put into CEO positions of like a Fortune 500 company without any knowledge of how to do it, and still have no knowledge of how to do it. So like you get intel about the future, but you only get the bad stuff and you don't know how to interpret it. There's other stuff out there. You know, you guys are just bad at business, which is why I say Harper could be a prophet who's paperwork slipped through the cracks, because the angels are bad at that shit. They're not on top of all of the prophets of the world, and they're not on top of everything going on in the world. So Harper, with her ozone, night flight to San Francisco monologue, is her, as you said, owning her visions, and recognizing and interpreting them how she sees fit. Which is wonderful.
I mean, I love that.
Yeah, Alex believes that it's her dying and going to heaven, since heaven is like San Francisco. And she's one of the souls rising.
She's dying when she's on the airplane to San Francisco?
Alex doesn't think she's ever on the airplane. Alex thinks she leaves, has an accidental overdose of Valium, and dies. That is what Alex Weissman believed.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's not.
So one of the things that actually is more clarified in the play that isn't in the HBO version, again, not necessary for the plot of the show, but is interesting, is that in that final scene in heaven where Pryor and Harper encounter each other, he's the one who tells her that heaven is a lot like San Francisco.
Yeah.
And so she gets the idea in her head to go to San Francisco, because it is sort of unusual to like watch the movie version, and then she has a big fight with Joe, and the next thing you know, she's on a plane to San Francisco, and it's her first, and then she's like, it's been years since I've been on a plane. And you're like, why'd you go to San Francisco? Like, it makes a lot more sense that the idea was put in her mind that she's going to a place like heaven. She's going to heaven on purpose. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
because she wants to see a thing of beauty. She's yet to see what Pryor describes the real San Francisco as. Because when she's in heaven with him, and she's like, well, this place kind of sucks. He's like, well, it only sort of looks like San Francisco. The real place is amazing.
It's amazing, like, exactly.
And she's like, oh, I kind of want to see that.
And also, like, I love that scene where she and Joe are back in Brooklyn, and they're looking at Manhattan from Brooklyn with the storm clouds over Manhattan, where she's talking about, like, the sort of, like, end of the world vibes and how it, like, attracts her. God, I just love that.
Very Melancholia.
very melancholia. I think you're
Yeah.
gonna love the movie.
I look forward
It's
to it. I look
really
forward to it.
strange, but
Yeah.
I do think you're gonna love it.
What do you think attracts Harper to Joe?
I think when their relationship was quote unquote good, right? I know it was never necessarily like phenomenally sexually good. Do you know what I mean? And there was always been a level of dishonesty there, right? So like that's my disclaimer of like no one ever was truly proceeding with honesty here.
Yeah.
But I do think he was a really good partner for her because I think he was like maybe one of the first ever safe places ever for her. I think he was not afraid of what she'd encountered in her life, and he didn't treat her like it had like marred her or turned her into a person who was like unlovable or unworthy of love. I think he even found her ability to like understand and touch suffering kind of attractive because he was suffering. And in a culture that is very much like anti tell you anybody else about your suffering, to like encounter a person who's like, not only do I hear you, but I get you. And like, the more you tell me, the more I love you because like I am understanding of and attracted to the depth of suffering that you have understood because I don't think anyone else has ever understood it in me. Right. So again, I am understanding that this is not necessarily like healthy to just be like, we love each other because we both have understood suffering. But I do think he made her feel really, really safe and really, really listened to. And like maybe for the first time, like she was like the kind of person who could like be in a quote unquote normal relationship when you've like gone years being like, will I ever be normal? Do you know what I mean? And then suddenly somebody sees you and is like, well, we might not ever be normal, but like together we could do this. And then you're like, oh my God, like just like the normal people, like I have a husband and like life is grand and we'll be there for each other. And when I'm sad, you'll comfort me. And when you're sad, I'll comfort you. You know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing.
Yeah. What's fascinating to me is there are so many parallels to my own life and my own writing that I have found in Angels, particularly in the Harper Joe Lewis stuff. The funny thing about Harper and Joe is that I realized upon this rewatch and reread, they don't have any friends. She has no friends. He has no friends. Like he still goes to work. Like he doesn't have any coworkers.
But he doesn't have friends.
Yeah. Roy is the only person who he's hung out with outside of Harper in the play, like related to work really. And that's only kind of on the newer side. He's just started sort of talking to Lewis, and that's also incredibly new.
I mean, I think you genuinely, like, I think it's proof he doesn't have friends when he's crying in the bathroom. And like when Lewis is crying in the bathroom and Joe comes out to like comfort him. Like, I think, like, you see in that moment a man who, like, is so lovely and has so many good instincts and no fucking friends. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I was like, to me, that feels like such concrete. Like, you're like, oh, yeah, what a nice guy. This guy doesn't talk to anyone.
Yeah, no one knows anything about him, really. And that is the thing that, oh, God, when... We've talked about this. I don't want to get into it too much, but like when all my shit was going down with Bub and we talked about it and, you know, I told you about him and all that stuff and, you know, turned out you knew him or sort of knew him. The thing that, you know, everyone who was connected to him had said to me when they found out about the whole situation was like, yeah, he's very nice. The more I think about it, the less I actually really know him.
Completely.
And I think that is a trait of someone who has so much insight that they don't want anyone to know about. And you can get really isolated being that guarded without even knowing it. Like you're nice to everyone, you're kind to everyone, but you don't actually connect with a lot of people. You can pass through so many people in this world and not offend anyone, but like, do you have actual roots with anyone? The only person he has roots with is Harper, and they have this insular toxic island that they live on from everyone else, and you watch them both just make bad decision after bad decision when it comes to each other for the entire 2-part play.
Yes.
And it ultimately takes her final thrust, and it's not the warning of terrible things that could happen of it, you know, get away from this man because you're just going to get even worse. It's the option of you can be happier over there. Like for 2 parts, she's been told like, she's been told two things of like, everything is bad here, or like, you just got to make it work here. And then it's not until the end when Pryor doesn't even say like, oh, leave your husband and go to San Francisco. He's like, San Francisco is really beautiful. And she's like, oh, there's something beautiful outside of where I'm at.
I just need to go try it.
I need to go try it.
Yeah.
And she's the one that breaks off ties.
The other thing that I think is like so indicative of when people play the characters quote unquote wrong, in my opinion, is that like Joe talks a lot about trying. He talks a lot about trying. Do you know what I mean? Like many of their fights come from him being like, I'm trying, right? And then like even being open and vulnerable about being like, that's me, that's me in that struggle. Because like I'm fighting against a creature that I'm fighting a winnable fight, but I'm still fighting. That's what he's equating in the image. I mean, there's two things. One is the grappling with this beautiful man. It's literally a depiction of two
beautiful men,
sexy guys, grappling. So like,
it's how I feel about The Outsiders, where I'm like, it's 20 beautiful boys beating the shit out of each other. You're like, okay. I'm like, here we go.
There's that, but it's also him just being like, this guy is fighting because he has to fight, because the alternative is something I can't even think about. But I know it's an unwinnable fight, and he's so honest about being like, I'm trying. I think when I see Harper's in that scene really shut him down / like show a sense of disgust on his admission in that moment, I really dislike it. I really dislike it. Because like, I think she knows deep down, she brings it up a lot. But the more she's like disgusted with him or angry with him when he's open about it, the less I fuck with that Harper, because I think she just wants him to say it, because when they even say it in that fight when she's like, just say it, and he's like, and then what? And she's like, then we'll figure it out. Do you know what I mean? Like she's like, just say it, and then we'll talk about it. And then he's like, nothing. Do you know what I mean? But she's leaving the door open for him to just say the words, and he won't say the words. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, and so then when he won't admit it, when he says, I'm not, and I don't know what difference it would make, what is her response?
Then she's allowed to be mad. Do you know what I'm saying?
But so I can't believe Alex and I didn't say this in the last episode. When it's the I burn dinner scene after she has threshold of revelation with Pryor, and Pryor's like, your husband's a homo. And it's one of my favorite punchlines, because we know that Joe likes to go on walks, and she's like,
do homos take actually, lots of long walks?
And it's one of the times that Mary Louise Parker is actually incredibly funny as Harper.
Incredibly funny.
She goes, I don't like your revelations. You don't intuit well at all. Joe is very normal. She goes, oh God, gets up, walks to the other side of the room, just turns around, she goes, do homos take like lots of long walks?
Yeah. And his like unbelievably dry response of yes, in tracksuits with lavender quaffs.
It's
God.
This play is hilarious. But so
funny.
So she's confronting Joe, and she says, tell me and we'll figure it out. He goes, I don't see what difference it would make. What does she say to him? I'm going to have a baby.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Sorry. Yes. Again, she's just trying to get some fucking control. Yeah, and also, I think what's really interesting about Patrick Wilson specifically in that performance is he seems very happy when she says that. And I have not seen a lot of other Joes play it that way. Mm-hmm. A lot of other Joes are like, Jesus Christ, no.
Yeah.
What? No, that's not possible. Your doctor said it's not possible. There's a moment there where he like genuinely gets a little joy, which I think is a very interesting choice as a guy.
It's joy for a second, but then the first word out of his mouth is liar.
Yes.
And you watch Mary Louise Parker again, like be the little kid. She goes, "You liar!" Like it's very two kids on the playground of like, my mommy and I met the Queen last week. Liar, like, you're a liar.
Like, yeah. Well, then I love also another one of my favorite Mary Louise Parker ones, when she goes, "Yes, no, yes." Now we both have a secret. That's one of her best lines. That's one of her best performance moments.
When he says, "Are you really pregnant?" She goes, "Yes, no, yes, no. Get away from me." Now we both have.
We both have a secret. Oh, she's amazing in that moment. She's so good. But we know for a fact that it is a lie when she has after the quartet, which I wrongfully called the all skate in the last episode, and she snaps, and Mr. Lie's her vision of the travel agent takes her away, and she ends up in Antarctica, and which is actually just Prospect Park. But in the end, when we leave her and Millennium approaches, as far as we know, she is in Antarctica. We have no idea where she could actually be. Yeah. And Mr. Lie says, you're not actually pregnant. You made that up, which is how we know it's true, because it's her self-talking. Yeah.
Talking herself. And she's like, well, as long as the snow is cold, then I'm pregnant and I can have any kind of baby I want.
And it's also I think that scene is very interesting. And also like the devolvement of as she's like coming back to sobriety and the vision is sort of falling apart and she's like falling out of love with the Eskimo, the like Joe Pitt stand-in. It's just like her realizing like basically what she's fantasizing about is like nesting, right? It's like having this like warm, reliable guy who's going to protect her and they have a baby and it's so, it's so loving. We're going to bring this love in the world. And then as it's devolving, she's like, it's not a hero. It's just Joe. Do you know what I mean?
Because I wanted a real Eskimo, not this lawyer.
Right. And so it's like, I think what is really lovely about the writing is that like they're both very much in love with each other and very much out of love with each other. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like they're both equal parts true. And that like you can see that what worked for them for a bit. And it's like we have officially reached like the inflection point of like the unhappiness, the dishonesty, the untruthfulness to who we are. It is officially gotten to the point where like we can't just love each other through this anymore. Like we can't just be like, I love you. We're safe. Like we can't like persist through the reality anymore. Like the reality just keeps poking through.
It's the Joe and Harper. I forget what movie it is. I think it might be Something's Gotta Give, where the exchange is like, I love you too. No, but I'm in love with you. And there's a very big difference of Joe loves Harper. He cares for her. He's not a sociopath. He does want to help her. Harper is in love with Joe. Correct.
And again, when there's a sense of a Harper who just hates his guts from square one, her depression in Perestroika doesn't make sense because she has to have believed that there was a possibility for their future together. And she has to have believed that he withdrew it from her somehow. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Which is like maybe not fair for her to say, to be like, how it's not fair that you're gay. Do you know what I mean? But like, she's not being rational or logical. She's heartbroken. And so like when people don't play the like in loveness enough of Millennium Approaches, I feel like I have fallen out of love with Harper's in Perestroika because I didn't feel that they were coming from any sort of real place of loss in Millennium Approaches. They just feel a little petulant. They feel a little bit like, well, then fine, I'm going to go hang out with your mom at the Mormon Visitor Center. And it's like, it's not that. It's like my whole life fell apart. This person I love and trust was lying to me. And I knew they were lying to me, but they still were lying to me. Do you know what I mean? Like that thing that there's like a childish thing in there that like, I need to believe something got really taken from her.
It's really tricky because with Millennium Approaches, we are introduced to both couples pretty much immediately when the inciting incident occurs for both of them, the Harper Joe and Lewis Pryor. And it's the inciting incident that the incident itself is not new information that ruins a good relationship. It is new information that exposes what's missing here and ultimately causes these relationships to split.
Because like that is the first thing we see of Lewis and Pryor, which is that when Lewis is crying and saying like, why didn't you tell me? Pryor's answer is like, I didn't want you to freak out. I didn't want you to leave me. Yeah. It's like the first thing he fucking says, or he's just Pryor, I had to be certain. I couldn't give you bad news and not have it be certain because like, I know you're going to act like this. And so like we're seeing the cracks of this relationship, which is like a man who is getting devastating, life-changing news, who isn't able to go to his partner and safely be like, listen, my doctor thinks blah, 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 because he's so afraid his partner's going to like flip out and potentially leave him.
Which is exactly what his partner does. And then with Harper and Joe, the new information is Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn is to their relationship what AIDS is to Pryor and Lewis. And Roy is not a wedge that drives them apart so much as that he is a new piece to their puzzle that exposes everything that's wrong with them. And then on top of Roy is then the introduction of Lewis, but into that relationship. And it's not that either one of them does anything to them. It's just now that this island has new inhabitants, we're recognizing how flawed the infrastructure is of the living situation, which is a very bonkers metaphor and messy, but so is this play. We'll talk about Joe in just a second, but first we got to take another break.
Really, I'd beg to differ with you. How do you mean? You're the top. Yeah. You're an arrow color. You're the top. You're a Coolidge dollar. You're the nimble tread of the feet.
And we're back. So,
And the play that I saw Betty Gilpin in was called I'm Gonna Pray For You So Hard. It was at Atlantic in 2015. The play is by Hallie Pfeiffer. Okay, thank you.
Hallie Pfeiffer. So this was pre-Glow then for Miss Gilpin.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this was around the time that she would have been just like an incredible Harper.
Yeah.
So vulnerable, just like raw nerve.
Yeah. And young. I do think it's important that we realize how young a lot of these characters are. I mean, this is 1985, 28 through 32, so it's a little older than 28 through 32 today. But we're not casting 45-year-olds in these parts.
Yeah.
They are aged young adults is how I would sort of describe it.
Aged young adults.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's something I want to say about Joe.
Yes.
First of all, I don't know if this is what you intended when we were talking, when you were like, let's talk about angels, that we were just like going to mostly talk about Harper and Joe, but I'm happy.
Well, I did want to talk about Harper because I felt like she got the short end of the stick in the last episode, which means that we're now talking about Joe.
Okay, cool. Because I mean, like, I love the whole play. I really, really feel, I just like really love the Harper and Joe stuff. And I really love Harper and I really love Joe. So it's like, I'm thrilled to be talking about them because I do feel that sometimes they get a little lost in the conversation, weirdly.
Well, they're the least fantastical elements of the play, and they're the most human, and it's the least sexy. Because like Joe,
it is the least sexy for sure.
Because like Joe gets Lewis, so we get a lot of their fuckery, and Harper has her visions, but she doesn't have a lot of them, and as Pryor starts to get his stuff going on, like that's far more fantastical, and it's less fast and funny like Belize. And I would argue that Harper's arc doesn't really begin until the end of the play, whereas we get to see a nice full arc for someone like Hannah. And neither she or Joe are as like vengeful and evil as Roy. So they are, I think they're the most human, they're the most relatable, but they're the least dynamic.
I don't know really what my attraction is to them, but obviously I feel very strongly about them. So I'm thrilled that this is the way the conversation's gone. I just don't want to feel that I don't want you to be like, okay, enough.
No, the one thing you have to steer me clear from, because I did mention it a little bit last time, but as we know, I have made it a point now in every episode of Broadway Breakdown to remind the listeners that I did what? Wrote a play. Wrote a play because it is the only thing besides this podcast that I'll ever do with my life since I cannot give birth. But I was so thrown rewatching and rereading how much the Lewis, Harper, Joe shit relates to the Owen, Aaron, John shit. And I was like, okay, I cannot make the parallels too much, but sometimes I will because I did not do it intentionally. It was just a life that I lived.
Okay, so I was about to say, it's not something that you do intentionally. Because I wrote a teen-aimed musical, which is like a fantasy comedy. It is like super goofy, meant to feel like the most freewheeling. Like it's like, like when you play like a D&D campaign with your friends and it's like so silly. It's like not like Game of Thronesy. It's like just like follow the fun. Like I wanted to write this thing to feel like your silliest, most fun game with your friends.
Yeah.
And it's about a world that hasn't had magic forever. It's like been like a really long time since there used to be fantastical beasts and fights and knights, and now there's no magic, so the world has gotten like extremely like clerical. And there's one character who can do magic, and she doesn't know why, but she's been able to do magic her entire life. And like through the course of this journey, she finds out why she can do magic and her connection to this old deep past and like blah 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 blah. And also they like are like trying to fight through like the bureaucracy of like, in the absence of chaos, bureaucracy became the answer to things. And it's a lot of just like, fighting with people trying to get you to fight out and fill out forms and shit. And after I like wrote this musical and I really liked it and we did a little workshop of it, and afterwards somebody was like, hey, I loved Angels in America Jr. And I was like, stop. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it couldn't have been less intentional. Like, I wasn't like, oh, you know what? This is so funny. This is so much like when they go to heaven and like heaven is like in the absence of God. Like they decided to like try and make their order. Like I just was writing from my heart, and I obviously was writing something that had like impacted me deeply when I read it as a young person. And I was trying to think of a story that would appeal to a young person. And then I wrote Angels in America Jr.
This is also, I remember how you and I became friends at such a young age, because we met around like 15, 16.
Yeah.
And we were the only two people that I knew who are our age, who were like, you love Angels in America, I love Angels in America, you love Amadeus, I love Amadeus.
Yeah, and then of course it was also like you had opinions on like Donna Murphy, and I was like, you know who Donna Murphy is? Do you know what I mean? Like it was a deep soul connection.
Yeah, no, we connected on many, many levels. For me, those were like the pillars that our house
Those
was
were
built
the
on.
pillars. But I'm just saying, like when I met you, I was amazed that someone even had a touch of knowledge on the things that I was like interested in, but also I mean, like this continues to be true to this day. Everything I know about, 10 times more about. So like, I like always felt that way. We're like, you just always had insight into these things.
I don't know that much, or at least in my opinion, I feel like I don't know that much about stuff. I always feel like there's limits to my knowledge, and that's why I'm always trying to learn more. I try not to, if I don't know something, I like to admit to that. My biggest fear is saying something that's super incorrect and saying it so proudly, and then someone being
but that's just why you're not really incorrect often. You just have sort of done your research appropriately, and you speak with authority on things that you know you have the authority to speak on.
To quote Belize, I am nothing if not well informed.
There you go.
Yeah, we have to eventually talk about Lewis and Belize, because I am very much a Lewis of the world. I am also like, that is the part that I would play if I were to be in Angels in America. My growing up and having an understanding of self is me in high school wanting nothing more than to play Prior Walter, and then by the time I left college, understanding that I could never play Prior, I can only play Lewis.
I disagree that you could never play Prior. I disagree with that. I just think that you would crush it as Lewis.
Lewis is a lot easier for me just because it's me. Lewis is all of the most intense, hyperbolic, annoying elements of myself.
Yeah.
All wrapped up into this package. Also similar to Lewis, I have also been involved with someone like a Joe, which led to a character like Owen to be written, which is what I didn't even realize I did with both of them is ultimately Owen is with his own Harper, who is more in control than Harper is, but has not had her own threshold of revelation, has not had her angel crashing through the ceiling and being like, girl, get gone.
Get gone, girl.
And thus, Owen is Joe at the end of Angels as well as in the middle of Angels, because he is still tied to a relationship that gives him something but doesn't give him enough, and is in fact draining him more than it is feeding him. And
so I have a question for you about Joe.
Yes.
That I don't think is a yes, no, correct, not incorrect answer. I just am really interested in your take on this. Mm-hmm. So the first person who says to Joe, please just say I'm gay, we can take it from there, is Harper. And obviously there is deep love there. When he does eventually say in the quartet, I'm a homosexual, she loses her mind, takes a bunch of pills, completely snaps and leaves. So justified, certainly, but not a great reaction to telling someone you're gay. Then he calls his mom on the phone, or I guess before this, he calls his mom on the phone and says, Mom, I'm gay. And she goes, well, this is a huge overreaction. You should know enough by now your father didn't love you. Okay, not a great reaction coming out and saying you're gay. Then he goes to Roy Cohn, who's his like a mentor, not a good man, but Joe really believes in him. And in his Republican way, thinks he actually is working for the good of America, and says, Roy, I left my wife. I'm deciding to live as myself. All those things you said I should do, like live for myself and be selfish and leave my wife and like take life by the balls. I'm doing it. I'm gay. And Roy goes, no, you're fucking not. Don't you ever say that again. Don't let me ever fucking hear you say that again. He like gets out of his, I mean, it's, again, talk about traumatic. He like gets out of his, it's not just don't be gay. He gets out of his hospital bed and his fucking IVs rip out and he's bleeding everywhere and the whole unit's going insane because it's AIDS blood. And like, you know what I mean? It's like, talk about a fucking traumatic moment. So like, this man stands up multiple times to claim his identity and is, I mean, like the word I want to use is punished for it, right? Like at every turn he meets, I don't even know what the word is. I was going to say like a roadblock, but it's not even a roadblock. It's not just like, oh, that would be difficult. Don't go down that road. It's literally people being like, turn the fuck around, you asshole. You know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy. And then at the end, his mom is hanging out with 3 gay guys.
Mm-hmm.
He's not even part of it.
He's not.
So like, is he just meant to be like the Job of this world in this biblical story, that he's the man who needs to test God's love and suffering? Does he need to find himself more? Do you know what I'm saying? Like he really never gets a moment of tenderness.
That's sort of the thing, right? Is so you Joe. I feel like I talked about this before. We as human beings, Sarah Silverman once said this on a podcast, like we gravitate towards where the love is, where the affection is. And only when it's turned on us do we realize what was actually there. And some people view it as, oh, I did something wrong to make this person who said they cared about me turn on me. Other people would see it and go, oh, I was wrong about this person. Their care for me was conditional. Mm-hmm. And we understand why Joe has taken this long to get to where he is, to announce who he is to anyone in his life, because of his, we're told about Utah, we're told about Mormonism, we're told about religion. We understand it's the mid-'80s. The Republican Party has full control, and he is a Republican, and he likes Reagan. He likes the idea of America, and he likes what he can get as a white man who presents as heterosexual in this world. Mm-hmm. But he is also profoundly unhappy. And you can either go for what is outwardly easy, which is all of the things that the country will provide for you if you lie about yourself, but it's not easy in the long run. It has a way of catching up with you. It has a way of making literally you bleed out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. If Joe had any kind of support system, or any kind of touchstone to the only healthy homosexual he knows is Lewis, or at least in his mind.
In his mind, yeah.
Lewis is a healthy homosexual, which I do think ultimately is why he ends up with him at the end of Millennium Approaches, because he has 2 moments of being brave and saying who he is. And granted, there are details here that make it trickier. He calls his mom at 2 a.m. drunk, and he implies that he is in Central Park because he likes to watch men get it on. Mm-hmm. All of this is a lot of information. And even his mom, when his mom flies to New York to talk to him about it, she's like, okay, I'm here, let's talk about it. She's like, and admits like she did not take it well. And she's like, in my defense, it was like 1 a.m. my time. You were drunk. Like a lot was thrown at me. And she's also not a person who talks about feelings. But Joe gets that initial reaction, catapults him to then tell Harper while she's in the middle of a Valium days. So he's not exactly, he's being honest, but the playing field isn't necessarily level, because then he tells Roy about it, but Roy is in a fucking hospital bed. Roy is dying. And so it's bravery in pieces. And he doesn't take away from any of those interactions what I think you should take away, which is like, oh, the person that I invested a lot of my self-worth in isn't worth it. Rather, it's, oh, they must be right then. So it ultimately takes Roy being like, go back to Roy for him to go back to Harper, and then one final push of trying to make it work. And like he's a pendulum. He goes back and forth, right? He has 3 weeks of bliss with Lewis of nonstop fucking. Goes to Roy to be like, I'm gay and I'm with a man and I've never been happier. Roy then pushes Joe back to Lewis. Roy pushes Joe back to Harper.
They try and make it work one final time. One terrible fuck.
Yeah,
and then they're like, well, this is over.
Exactly. It's one bad sex for him to go back to Lewis. And with Lewis is ultimately the true mirror to Joe, because it's not about, whereas Hannah and Harper and Roy are like, you're a good man, but the homosexuality, that's a problem. We'll work that out. Lewis is like, no, you're a homosexual. That's not a problem. be a
It's everything else you are. Yeah.
Everything else about you is awful.
Right,
and
right.
And Joe can't fully handle that. So I something I had said is a lot of people in this world, right? We talk about how so many issues that are issues, unfortunately, in this country and shouldn't be, are people who look at the abstract and make a rash decision about it. Things about queer people, trans people, about women, people of color, immigrants. It's like the people that they don't know from a distance and saying, I can see the whole picture. And from the whole picture, I have this decision.
Yeah, this is what I've decided.
And it means no empathy. And the thinking is usually, once you get to know someone, once you're up close and you see the nuance of humanity, that is when your empathy sinks in and you realize that it's not the decision you originally thought. That is that is what Joe ultimately is Joe sees the world from a distance through black and white and through the eyes of the law, which is why all of those terrible decisions he made on behalf of his boss,
right,
he
thinks they are completely justified in terms of like legal proceedings. It's just words. It's just, yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's not about humanity. Lewis is the inverse of that. Lewis sees the pain of the world from a distance and is like, we must fight. But the moment he is up close and personal with another human being, that's when he's like, fuck this, I'm out.
Right.
Which is, it's fascinating that he is the inverse of that. He's on the right side of history on a moral perspective, but as a human being, he kind of sucks because he can't deal with the one-on-one. And so he is giving Joe a hard dose of reality, but because Lewis sucks and his delivery of everything sucks, Joe is just feeling attacked and abused and isn't hearing anything that he's saying, which is ultimately what then leads him back to Harper of, well, the one person who gave me affection is Harper. And so this is where it all makes sense. Harper, don't go. You're the only person who actually cares about me. And Harper, slaps him, gives him the Valium, and it's like, go get lost, figure it out. She's like, I'm never going to talk to you again because it hurt that badly. You need to discover yourself now.
Yeah.
The question is whether he does it or not. The miniseries implies that it's possible he finds some redemption. The play, he could be the one person who's not better off by the end of all of this, which I think there is an artistic merit to that, because then you're like, well, everyone in the play went through such hell, but look how they all came out in the end, except for Roy Cohn, who's burning in hell.
I mean, the author's note at the top of Perestroika from Tony Kushner says this play is functionally a comedy, not a farce, but people largely get what they want and are able to do so through exploration. Actually, you know what? Why am I fucking saying this? Let's see what the man himself has to say. I
have Perestroika right here. I have every edition of this play in print, because I went out and I rebought the play now that there's a new edition with the added Roy Cohn Joe scene in Perestroika.
Okay, here's what it says. A note to the actors and directors. Perestroika is essentially a comedy in that issues are resolved, mostly peaceably, growth takes place, and loss is, to a certain degree, countenanced. But it is not at all a farce. All this happens only through a terrific amount of struggle, and the stakes are high. And then it talks about, like, making sure not to play too many things, not to play the angel for laughs, and, like, to make sure that, like, the gravity of what the angel is asking from Pryor, even though it, like, sounds absurd, to, like, not lean into the absurdness at all. It has to be dead serious what she's asking him to do and what she's trying to give him. And that, like, it will be funny to us in the watching, but that they cannot have a wink at it at all. Like an angel is giving him a sacred text. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's basically what that says.
Yeah. The angel thing, it makes sense. And it's what makes comedy so hard, because you, the actor, have to understand what makes it funny. You have to be able to figure out the technical beats of it. But then once you're the character doesn't find it funny. That's also all comedy. Like, a character doesn't find their situation funny. It is serious to them. But you, the actor, have to understand how to convey that so the audience can laugh.
I mean, but that is essentially just what he's saying, is that it's like, of course the show is sad and it deals with sad things and it's not like knee slapper funny, but that, like, ultimately it follows the beats of a comedy, and that, like, people struggle and they get what they want, and then it's like, it's over. And it's not a tragedy in that, like, there's a fatal flaw that leads to the undoing of this and of that, and then, oh my god, I accidentally killed my own daughter, it's Rigoletto. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, it follows more traditionally the beats of a comedy. But Joe really falls outside that spectrum to me. He's, like, the only person who I feel like really just I mean, like, obviously, like, you know, Roy dies, but even he gets a scene. I mean, if you're reading the play, even he gets a scene where he's in like heaven, hell, or purgatory. It is very careful to say that he's not in any of those. Talking to God, and he's going to represent him in family court. He gets what he wants in a way.
Well, so that scene, it's in the printed script. It was cut.
Yeah, and it says this scene can be cut, but I like it, and I don't want it to be cut.
I know it's a fun scene. It was cut for the Broadway production, supposedly. I will know for sure once I watch it at the library. But according to World Only Spins Forward, Wolf wanted it cut because he was like, Roy dies twice already. He's like fucking kill the motherfucker. You don't need him anymore. Like, he has 2 fake deaths in that Ethel Rosenberg scene. Just kill him. And he's like, Perestroika's long enough as it is. Like, we got to get to the finish line, which is totally fair. And it is a good scene, and it's a funny scene. But
it's also short. Cut the oldest living Bolshevik and leave fucking the talking to God.
Yeah, honestly, the oldest living Bolshevik, I feel like, is only in there because we have the rabbi at the top of Millennium Approaches. We don't really need the Bolshevik.
They left it in the signature production, and I was shocked.
The Bolshevik?
The oldest living Bolshevik, yes.
They cut it?
No, they was in it.
No, it's usually in it.
I was genuinely shocked when I was like, when people are cutting things for time, when that doesn't get cut for time, I'm always kind of amazed.
Oh, I would imagine that is something that Kushner has been adamant about not cutting. And yeah, and that is something that, brilliant as he is, sometimes it takes someone dumber like us on the outside to look at him and be like, hey, Tony, baby, honey,
hey, we can
child.
cut this one.
We can cut this one. Honestly, but that's how I also felt about his screenplay for West Side Story. It was like, you're an immense poet. Please let me add that screenplay so I can fucking trim it for you.
Yeah, but it was still so good.
It's a very good movie. That screenplay,
I thought it was a great movie.
That movie could be tighter.
I don't know. Anyway, that was just that's just sort of a question that I have when I watch the show. I feel it every time I watch it.
Well, so okay,
live on stage, not on stage, movie version, something I've seen 100 times, somebody's new performance. I always am left sort of wondering the authorial, not even like what happened to him in terms of like, gee, I wonder what happened to that character, but just sort of like, boy, oh boy, talk about a guy who gets really put through the ringer. And so like in this show where many people face consequences, right? Like when Lewis is like, when Lewis comes back to say like he's sorry and to see Pryor again, and Pryor is like, I love you, but never again. Never.
Yeah.
You can't come back ever. You as the audience feel a sense of satisfaction because you're like, that is the correct answer. Mm-hmm. But you're also, I think if he came back crying, apologizing, and Pryor was like, fuck you and the horse you rode on, I'll never talking to you again. Even if you in your heart know that it would be completely correct for Pryor to say that, I don't think it's what you want. It's like not what you desire.
Yeah.
Watching it, you want to see him go, you can't come back, never. But also then when they're like hanging out as friends and like are still part of each other's lives, you're like, oh, this feels right. Like, thank God. I didn't really want to see these two men never, ever, 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 ever be able to talk ever again.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that Pryor made this justified boundary because he knows he can't let him in again to hurt him again. Correct. Yeah. There's just not something similar with Joe. There's just, do you know what I mean? They added that scene in the HBO version where he talks to his mom and she sort of is like, good luck, baby.
Well, it's a little kind.
You know what I mean?
It's a little kinder than that. She says to him, should I make dinner tonight? I'll wait up for you.
Right.
And so that like they're working towards having a
relationship.
Yes. Because two things. Hannah, for me, has the most interesting arc because she's the one who truly changes the most out of anyone.
Definitely.
Because there's always the question of like, can we really change? And I think people can, but you're never going to have this total 180. There's always a part of you that remains. It's just, can you evolve? Can you be a more evolved version of who you were? And so when we see Lewis at the end of the show, it's during the epilogue, he's still Lewis. He's just like a little less insufferable. He's a little less pedantic and he's a little more mature, but he still talks a mile a minute. He's still going all over the place and like thinks of himself as a New York City Bolshevik.
Yeah.
But there is stuff to him. Like Harper's going to grow up a little bit, but she's also going to always be a little wounded. And so Hannah's the one who definitely makes the largest change. So that's one thing. The other thing is I was asked by Alex if I thought that Joe was bisexual the way that Lewis kind of implies when they're together. And I said no, and then I said he even says as such, and then I stopped myself and I said, okay, I stand by my opinion. I withdraw my evidence, because Joe does not have, when the play is over, an understanding of self-awareness. He's not willing
Yeah, who knows what he is? He doesn't know what he is, so how do we know what he is? I
Exactly.
agree with that.
And I view it as, if I were to be optimistic, and I like to think that I'm correct in this based off of the scene that Kushner added for the miniseries, and because Kushner has decided to be the J.K. Rowling of Angels in America, and he knows exactly what happens to everyone. But it's the end of Slave Play, a play that I've always talked about how I don't care for very much. And if you want to hear more about that, you can listen to the episode with Marcus Scott. But I thought it was fascinating how it ended, or at least the night that I saw it, how it ended, which was Joaquina Colacongo and Paul Alexander Nolan finally doing the slave role playing and having sex and it going way too far, and them breaking off, and it's sort of this whole purging of self. And the final line is, "Thank you, baby, for listening." And they have said, the cast has said, and the writer has said, the meaning of that line changes every night depending on like how the actress is feeling in the moment. And I saw it live, and then I saw it at the library, and it was very different perceptions. The night I saw it definitely gave the impression that this was a couple that was going to possibly survive, because what Joaquina's character wanted more than anything was to address all of the toxicity in their relationship that was both due to the two of them, that was due to the world that they lived in, and the legacy of inherent racism and trauma. And just like, I want to talk about it. I want to get it out of the fucking open, like get all the nastiness out, like basically do couples ayahuasca and like get all that
let's get it out. Let's fucking puke tonight.
Exactly, which is ultimately what they do in that final scene. And it's basically burning down your house and starting again because it's on rotten foundation. And in a way, you could argue that Angels in America Part 1 and 2 is a 7-hour burning down of Joe's foundation. And now, when it ends, you go, okay, baby
your
doll.
TV just magically turned on. Did you see that?
It did. Yeah, that happens sometimes. It heard ayahuasca and went, you rang?
It really did. It was sort of spooky. I saw like a little thing and I was like, huh? And then I don't know if you saw my eyes just sort of like flicking that way, but that's what I was seeing.
I've never made eye contact with you a day in my life, but
you're looking at my
your magnificent mountain's majesty, or whatever, purple mountain's majesty. But yeah, I think you can look at Joe and go, okay, it's all burned down now. Your mentor is dead. Your wife has left you. The man who gave you your sexual awakening has called you a piece of shit to your face.
Right, and wants nothing to ever do with you until you, unless you fundamentally change everything you believe and everything you ever worked for. And then even then, maybe never.
Yeah, at the most you could hope for is that this man who opened your eyes to your sexuality, who you claimed to love, who you don't, but like that's how you felt in the moment. Yes, unless you change everything, he'll never see you again, and even then, it's just like he may talk to you. I mean,
I feel like you're so on the money, because like Joe says it himself in the scene where they go to the beach, where he takes off all his clothes, and he's like, I want to shed every skin, every new skin. Like I want to go back to like I am looking to go back to the version of me that is like.
He doesn't say I want to. He says I will.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's, I guess, I think I understand what you're saying. But it's like,
prospect of losing Lewis, he's like, what do you want?
What do you want from me?
I'll get rid of everything. And
so I think deep down you wouldn't offer that if you didn't want it secretly a little. Now, I don't know if I'm not trying to say he is prepared to do that. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying he's prepared to renounce politically the things that, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's a lot there. I'm not saying like he's an angel who's like free of fault, but like, I think in him offering to do that, one, it's quite sad, right? Like you're supposed to feel a sense of pity watching that. You're supposed to be like, oh no, this man has no idea who he is. And he's willing to be a blank slate for anybody who's willing to like shape him and mold him in the clay that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
he desperately wants someone to say like, this is who you are and I'm willing to take and I'll shape you. And he's like, oh God, thank God. Because like, that's just what he wants. He wants just someone to like come in and make it better and just be like, okay, you're gay and this is what gay means. And this is what gay looks like. And this is what our relationship will look like. And just say this and believe this and do this. And then it'll be okay. And he's like, oh, good. That's what I was hoping for. I was hoping somebody would tell me exactly what I needed to be happy, because he's not happy. But like, I think also the only kind of person who says like, I want to be flayed, which is like literally what he says. The only person who says that is somebody who's like, oh God, start over with me. Wait, he says that earlier. I pray for God to crush me into dust and start over. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. I mean, like, this is the saddest man ever written. This is the saddest character ever committed to the page.
He is so incredibly sad because he also, like, everything about him is molded from everything that he's known and been surrounded by. His beliefs, his understanding of the world, all comes from
manlyhood, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a religious man, what it means to be a married man.
Grew up in an incredibly religious community in a very cold household where there were rules, there was structure, there was right and there was wrong, and everything was binary. And he takes that attitude to New York, where he's not, as I said, he's not malicious. He's not intentionally trying to harm people. He is so gullible. He has the meeting with Roy and Martin, and he finds out about Roy stealing money from a client. He's like, I'm sure you intended to return it. You would like,
yeah, you wouldn't do that. Yeah.
Because no one would. That's wrong. And he's not realizing that, like, if Lewis were a kinder person, because Lewis is a moral person, but Lewis is not kind.
Correct.
Lewis is not nice. And Lewis he and Joe are similar in the way that, like, they're both a glutton for punishment. It's like, tell me I'm a piece of shit. So, and for Joe, it's like, that way I can feel less guilty about, how I'm feeling. Whereas Lewis is like, in a way that kind of absolves me, and I can go off and do whatever dumb shit I'm about to do next because you call me a piece of shit. And I know that.
And so I know. Yeah, exactly.
If Lewis were better, but he's just he's both in a flying rage of realizing who he's been fucking for 3 weeks. This person who he thought was like a semi-moral, like, kind but misguided Republican, only to find out from Belize that he's in ties with Roy Cohn.
Right. The pole star of human evil, as Lewis says.
So he's in this, like, full-on, rage, what was I looking for? Tirade or whatever. And throws all of these decisions at Joe and shouting at him. He could have said, you're a moral person who sees the world in black and white, and the law makes elementary sense to you. The men who are above you and are relying on your decisions are not having you do that because they trust your judgment. They're doing that because your judgments line up with their conservative line of thinking. They are doing it for malicious intent, and they are taking advantage of you. You understand the law, but through a very small lens from the community that you came from. The world is larger and more complicated than that. There are people from all walks of life, and you have to include humanity into your understanding of the law. Can you do that?
And right. And the answer is that he at least at present cannot, because it's never been a question.
That I think that he could if he were given that kind of understanding and sympathy.
Totally. Right. But it's like you don't just wake up one morning and go like,
yeah. No,
equality. Praxis. You know what I mean?
Not a 180, but if someone like Hannah, who also all she's ever known is this life, can be exposed to the world and want to absorb it and still have her Mormon sensibilities while embracing the nuances of humanity.
Correct. And like, especially Meryl Streep is like so cosmopolitan when you see her in that last scene. Her haircut, her clothes, everything.
And that's in the script. It says that, Hannah has noticeably changed. She looks like a New Yorker now.
Yeah.
And it's so good because you watch her, because the way you watch Meryl in that final scene is she is still Hannah. She's just Hannah who's now lived in New York for 5 years.
Right.
So,
And like Hannah was born to be a New Yorker, which is like so fun. Like It's so fun to see this character and their like their pragmatism and like that like really cliched thing that they say about like New Yorkers, where like New Yorkers are kind but not nice.
Yeah.
That is Hannah Pitt. Hannah Pitt is kind but not nice. She will take a stranger to the hospital because they're like dying in front of her, but like won't it's not done with like warmth. It's like, it's just like, well, this is the right thing to do. Like, you know, she was truly born to live on the Upper East Side.
Like Pryor is dying in a hospital bed talking about an angel, and she brings up Mormonism, and he's like, it's so ridiculous, and she just says right to his face, to a dying man's face, it's not polite to call other people's beliefs ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, like, she's the best.
Yeah, she's amazing. We'll talk more about Hannah in a second. Do you want to talk more about Joe?
I feel like you talked about Hannah, so I feel like we don't have to retread ground. Okay, if you retreaded the ground.
Well, she just ties in and out. But yeah, we did talk about Hannah quite a lot. We'll talk about a lot of it more in just a second. But first, Ali, we got to take another break.
Really, I beg to differ with you. How do you mean? You're the top. Yeah. You're an arrow color. You're the top. You're a Coolidge dollar. You're the nimble tread of the feet of Fred Astaire.
And we're back. Anything else about Joe that we wanted to sort of touch on?
I mean, I feel like I have said my biggest thoughts.
Yeah.
Which is that.
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, your thoughts. I was about to say something.
I just like, I don't like when I don't like when Joe and Harper are played without a sense of love. It can be a misguided love. It can be a love that you know is doomed. It can be a love that you know has lies. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it's a perfect love, but like, when I see them played already hating each other's guts, when the Harper is petulant at all times with him, when she has no warmth towards him, when it is just coldness, when he is annoyed by her, when he is, do you know what I'm saying? Like, there is a way to play these characters that I think is like really misguided. And I think it makes the second half of the play completely fall apart for them. And I do think that was unfortunately very present in the Signature production. That's probably my least favorite time I've ever seen those characters played, and maybe even including high schoolers I've seen do the roles. Oops. Sorry.
It was also just, as much as I liked Denise and I liked Lee Pace, more so than I liked Russell Tovey, I did not like their relationship in the National Theater production either.
They didn't capture my imagination. I didn't think there was anything wrong with their relationship. They were both so beautifully acted. But they both were sort of playing people who were very guarded because of the deep, deep pain in their hearts. And I felt like they were never opening up with each other ever, which is actually, I think, a very interesting way to play the characters. Like, I don't think it's like a misguided way to play the characters. I just didn't think it was as effective, in my opinion.
It wasn't as absorbing for me. I thought both of their performances thrived in scenes with others. And with Lee Pace, so I talked about this with Alex as well, and I kind of want to get your idea of this as well, of like how you envision an actor for Joe. How you would cast it. Because this is a question that we're going to get to at the end, which is something on the Discord channel, which if you haven't joined the Discord channel yet, guys, make sure to join. But people were asking, dream casting Angels in America. And it comes down to ultimately what is most important for you for every role. And for Joe, in World Only Spins Forward, Steven Spinella had said that in his mind, he would love to see a more effeminate Flaming Joe. He thinks that that would be really funny because there's a constant running joke of any time he mentions his wife to people who don't know him well, they're like, your wife?
Yeah.
But I obviously, like, Kushner has made it very clear through the text that Joe is meant to be a pillar of masculinity and almost like looking like the American dream in the same way that I
mean, it's literally the title of the set. You know how, like, I guess I'm saying this for people who maybe haven't read the script. No, it's even the titles of the things in the HBO version. Every section has its own title. Yeah. And the one where Pryor meets Joe by barging in on his workplace is called Beyond Nelly. And it's because he says just by not even talking to him, but just by seeing Joe, he goes, he made me feel beyond Nelly. He made me feel like wispy daisies was sprouting out of my ears. So it's like, it's in the text. Like, he does have to be kind of like he was a Marlboro man. He says it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a dude. Not coming back to West Side Story again, issues that I have with the movie aside and issues I might have with any specific performances aside, on a visual level, everyone in the remake is cast well. Like, you look at them and you go, yes.
Oh, totally.
And something that made sense to me with Ansel Elgort's casting as Tony opposite Rachel Zegler's Maria, Kushner really worked to make Maria a more a larger character in the remake. I always think Maria is a really wonderful character in general, but in the remake, she had a little bit more pragmatism towards herself and a little more wisecracky. But then from that came the question of like, how could this intelligent young whippersnapper fall in love with this dolt of a boy?
Right.
And the thing I'll say is, it's, when they see each other, it's not like love at first sight. You're the only person in my entire life who I know who's like had that. But it's more because I remember telling you about the 94 carousel before I ever made you watch, but I was telling you about the way Michael Hayden lifted Sally Murphy up onto that horse.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a lock eyes, I'm in love with you now, but it was a lock eyes and who are you? Like chemical. It was an animalistic instinct.
But like, that's part of it. Like, there really is no way, you can't genuinely look at another person and go, we're a good partnership. You go like, hello.
Yeah.
There's like a magnetism. There's something chemical. There's something, I don't know if you believe, like for people who believe in like fate or whatever, it's like, oh my God, soulmate. But like, it's all just saying the same thing, which is just that like something in the air shifts.
Something in the cosmos in the way that Harper and Pryor are able to meet. But with Tony and Maria in the remake, it's very clear from Ansel's face and Rachel's face, it's less of like, I'm in love and more of a, who are you? And what Maria sees in Tony looking the way he does in the remake is the American dream. That is a tall, handsome, blonde boy in a suit.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yes, please, I want. And in a lot of ways, that's sort of what Joe is and why characters sort of circle around him. What I would imagine it's something that also Harper enjoys is that this handsome man who looks like what the American dream is. Roy sees him. Roy, who considers himself a fierce American and hates traitors, it's, communism and all that stuff, does not look or sound or act like an all-American man, but Joe does. And it's also ultimately what attracts Lewis to him is like, Joe is a man and is so different from probably any man that Lewis has ever had sex with in the past. Wholesome looking and sweet, like looks like the leading man of a movie. Correct.
And for Lewis, I assume there's a part of him that's like, oh my God, this feels so good to be like the object of desire in that way.
Yeah.
And also it's like, I don't know, it's that stupid animal thing of just like, well, if you like me and you're hot, then I'm hot.
Yeah.
And by that I mean worthy. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like it's not logical, it's not even healthy, but it's that thing of just like, if you want me, then I'm wantable.
Yeah.
So now Gordon, I feel wantable.
Yeah. Ali Gordon, you know that I wrote a play, right?
Did you?
No.
I haven't heard this.
I never talk about it. The character breakdown I gave for John. I don't know if you remember the character breakdown. Because spoiler alert, everybody, Ali has done 2 readings of the play, so she's definitely like seen this text. But in the character breakdowns for John, I had, I gave the description, smart, emotional, blah, blah. I said the gay Jewish boy version of Renee Zellweger and Jerry Maguire. Mm-hmm. And not everyone understood what that meant. And it is similar to Lewis and Joe in the sense that Renee Zellweger is a muggle in that movie. She is a real world 8 out of 10, but a Hollywood rom-com 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Who is very smart, very insightful, and very self-aware, and is capable of making smart decisions. But 1996, Tom Cruise is in her face, the most beautiful Tom Cruise has ever been, and he is movie handsome, not real world handsome. He's in her face being like, quit your job and start a firm with me. Don't go to that other job in San Francisco. Stay here and marry me. And smart as she is, she's like, I guess so. And there is a magnetism that having a certain level of attractiveness gives a lot of people, whether we want to admit it or not.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of stuff that Lewis ignores about Joe simply because he finds him hot. And it's from the jump, the first time they ever meet in the bathroom, and Lewis, like, that there's trouble in the air, even when Pryor says, I thought you would leave me. But when Lewis is crying in the bathroom over Pryor and talking to Joe, and they're having the back and forth, I voted for Reagan. Oh, a gay Republican. I'm not gay. Oh, right, sure. And they're like, whatever. They're sort of circling each other. The scene ends with Lewis saying, thanks for the toilet paper. Joe
and kissing him on the cheek.
Yeah. Joe gives him his hand to like give, say, you're welcome. And he pulls him in, kisses him on the cheek, and leaves in a very like, I'm testing the water sort of way. Now,
I mean, he does say sort of outright that he like was a flirt. That like Lewis was sort of like a
they were open.
incorrigible flirt always. You know what I mean?
They talk about, he mentions in Perestroika when they're walking on the beach, which is a pickup spot, he was like, you know, Lewis is it there's no justice because I fucked around way more than Pryor did.
Right.
And he's the one that got sick.
There's even just a little bit in like in that first meeting when he's like, all my friends call me Louise.
Mm-hmm.
It's just flirting. It's just you can just tell that it is revealing a reputation. Do you know what I mean? Willingly. He's like willingly saying like, you can call me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm that kind of person.
Yeah, he's like, you may be confused as to what you are. I am not openly going to say it. My friends call me Louise. Get
Right,
it?
exactly. Right.
Get it?
But it's also like, it's not even like, haha, get it only. It's also like, I've got a lot of friends. I've got nicknames. Do you know what I mean? Like, it really like, it gives me like a sense of like,
I've always interpreted it as when they're talking about that, do I sound like a, it's Lewis's way of saying without saying I'm gay. He's like, my name is Lewis. My friends call me Louise.
right. I'm not just saying you sound gay, I'm gay. Yeah.
Yes. Like I am a homosexual and, you know, your sensitivity is very sweet. And now you know.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
That scene is so fucking good.
It's Stewie Griffin walking naked in the living room in front of that hot guy, and he's like walking around naked, not going to do anything. But if you see anything you like, shout it out. Like it's very that.
Yeah.
Every scene in
It's
this
a great
play is
scene.
good. Every scene is great.
And
I love
also them on the bench having the hot dog together. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Every
Well,
scene is the best scene ever written. That is sort of unfortunately true about Angels in America.
Yeah.
Is that like every scene you read, you go, if that was the best scene in the show would still be amazing. And then you turn to the next page and then it's a better scene. And then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, well, if that was the best thing in the show, then I still paid for my money. And then you turn to the next page and it means like, it's just banger after banger after banger. Lines of such poetry that are so gorgeous, but it never feels like a serious play. Do you know what I mean? It's not a play about poetry. It's just the most beautifully written play.
Well, because I would argue that the densest elements of text in Angels comes from the angel.
Yeah.
And then probably like the oldest living Bolshevik. But when the angel speaks and talks about these, you know, grand ideas and the history of man and the history of angels and God, she goes into these very dense passages that then get cut through by a one-liner from Pryor, basically like either having to re-explain to Belize what that meant, because the whole point of that Angel's flashback is that it is a flashback, or she'll say something insane that you as an audience member are like, oh, I guess I'm pretty dumb for not getting that, and then Pryor will be like, what?
Yeah.
And that's
like in the inverse of it, she'll tell a sprawling story about how the angels used to live like this and God used to be like this and blah blah blah. And then one day he got tired and he left, and it cuts to Pryor. And I also think this is one of Justin Kirk's best acting moments. And with tears in his eyes, he says abandoned. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, he gets it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He summarizes what she's saying, this like long convoluted story. He feels it because he feels abandoned by his lover. He's also been abandoned as the plaything, the interesting thing of the minute. Now he's gone. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I love that moment. It's the same thing where it's like it either cuts to something that undercuts it, that shows it's absurd. It cuts to him understanding it in a way that's like really profound, where you're like, oh, this isn't just a story. It's something that's personal.
Yeah.
He's feeling it mirrored in his own life.
It is a play infested with highly intelligent people, and
which usually sucks.
Plays
about smart people usually fucking blow, and I don't know how this one doesn't blow, but it doesn't,
because
they're all different kinds of smart too. I guess
they're all different kinds of smart. I also think that I think something that's interesting is pretty much like any character can be right in one scene and then wrong in the next.
Yes.
Or like do a good thing, or like want to get to the heart of truth in one scene and then like want to run away from it the next. They are incredibly smart, but they're also incredibly human. So as we said, like Harper very empathetic, bleeding heart, wants to, discover the truth of her relationship so they can figure it out. And then the moment it arrives, she flips.
Right.
And tears up all the carpet to get to to get away from it all. And then Perestroika is her sort of like realizing how she reacted, what the truth is, and sort of slowly gliding her way to a soft place to land and going off on her own.
Right.
Joe is also a very kind person who doesn't want to like discuss negative stuff because of what might come up. And every time he tries to speak his truth, he is rejected, which leads him to then make more bad decisions. Lewis, who is a morally and politically justified person in the abstract, in the up close, is kind of awful.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Belize and Pryor are probably the most like, I don't know, like Pryor is an upstanding person who is just going through it and is tested again and again and again. Belize is maybe the only person who doesn't really have a lot of fatal flaws to them, but Belize has incredible sense of humor and restraint, knows when to not say anything.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I do think it is interesting that like the turning point for Belize is, will I offer a modicum of empathy to a person who seemingly deserves very little empathy, is a monster? And that is a very interesting question. Mm-hmm. It also becomes this very interesting question of like, we are led to believe he's a great nurse. Do you know what I mean? Like, everything points towards believing what he says when he's like, everybody else here is going to make this thing feel like Drano going into your arm. I'll make it feel like nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Like when he talks with authority, you're like, Belize is amazing at his job. And then he does something deeply, quote unquote, unethical in stealing medication from a dead man, which doesn't belong to him. It is fully theft. Now, morally, it's going to go to fucking waste. This guy shouldn't have had it in the first place. People's lives can be changed by having it, right? So it's like, it's the same thing where it's like people keep encountering these situations where like, what you've learned, what you've lived is being tested by like the reality of a situation.
You know that Whitney Houston song, It's Not Right, But It's Okay?
But it's okay.
Well, it's not okay, but it's right.
There you go. We should have written that for her as the follow-up.
She'd still be alive today if we'd written that for her.
If we had written
the follow-up, it's not okay.
It's not okay, but it's right.
Yeah.
Which will be the final lip sync song on season 29 of RuPaul's Drag Race.
I'm assuming you're up to date on Drag Race, yes?
I'm up to date.
I am fully not. Although I realize I've missed fewer regular seasons than I thought. I thought I've missed like 5 regular seasons. I've only been missing this one because there's just been so many all-stars and international in between.
Oh, yeah. And I have not watched most of those, to be entirely honest.
The scene, so I'm glad you mentioned the stealing of the AZT. We mentioned the Kaddish last episode, but we didn't really talk much about that particular moment of Roy dies. I was just thinking, like, so many amazing Meryl scenes in the miniseries, but one of my personal favorites is, Meryl is my favorite performance I have seen of Ethel Rosenberg so far.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm including the clips of Kathleen Chalfant that I've seen.
No, I completely agree with you. I think she just nails it in a way that she's just amazing in that role.
It is one of the gifts of film that you can be as simple as Meryl is as Ethel and be as effective, but she also has a lightness and a sense of humor about it. The way she goes, "You don't look so good, Roy." It's just like, but you lost weight. It suits you. You were heavier then. Zaftig with hips.
It's a great line. My God.
But when Roy dies and Belize calls Lewis because. Another great line where Lewis shows up, sees the dead Roy Cohn, and Belize is like, "I'm supposed to call my authorities if his condition has changed," and looks at his dead body.
It's changed.
It's changed.
Get this show so fucking funny.
It's so fucking funny. But ultimately, he knows what's the right thing to do, and it is to steal the medication because it's the Wild West out here when it comes to the FCC and AIDS. Like this is the only really drug treatment that's happening. Many years later, we come to find out it wasn't terribly effective. It's basically a cancer medication that, it helped slow down symptoms, but that was really all it did. I'm glad that even in 1993 when the show premiered on Broadway, they don't call it a miracle drug. They even say, Lewis says, these pills will make you better. And Pryor says, no, it, poisons your system.
Right.
I'm not getting
He's afraid
better.
it's going to make him really, really sick.
Yeah, which it might. Whereas opposed to something like Rent, it's like, well, none of us have health insurance, but we all have access to AZT in 1996.
And we all feel great.
Yeah, it's a miracle drug. We're all doing great with it.
I love it. I'm running around.
Yeah, it's not because we don't have HIV. We got full blown AIDS, and it's just like you're just like Jonathan Larson. Your heart is in the right place, but like, please, you should have hired one more dramaturg, just one more. But
yeah,
we digress. That scene, it's not just that Belize is doing this Wild West thing. He's recruiting Lewis, who he doesn't like, has never liked Lewis, even when Lewis was with Pryor, because Belize is Pryor's best friend, has never liked Lewis. And likes him even less after what he's done to Pryor.
Right.
So he's recruiting Lewis so they can thank Roy, a person that they both hate, for the pills. And Lewis says to him, I'm not doing the Kaddish over his body. Like, I don't even know it. My parents would never forgive me. Why would you want to do that? Why would, and Lewis is like, why would you want to pray for him? And Belize is like, I would even pray for you. And he goes, it's not easy. It doesn't count if it's easy. And that is one of my favorite lines. I'm sure like Kushner didn't come up with that. I'm sure someone in his life
know, but
said
what
it.
a great little summation there.
But I use it everywhere when like forgiveness doesn't count if it's easy.
Right.
Like it takes so much work if someone hurts you or hurts someone you love, and to get to a place of equilibrium with them takes a lot of soul searching, takes a lot of talking, takes a lot of work. It's not easy. Right. And Belize is the one who kind of does what we're told America should do, which is take people you don't like or don't agree with and make change with them, hold hands and make change. And it's a small moment, but it happens. It also, by the way, cuts against Roy's speech to his doctor, Henry, at the end of Act 1 of Millennium Approaches, when he gets his AIDS diagnosis. And he says, I don't have AIDS because homosexuals get AIDS. And homosexuals are men in this country who cannot even pass off a pissant anti-discriminatory bill.
Right.
He's like, they can't.
And he's like, they have no access, no connections. Like, when do I look like a person with no access and no connections?
Exactly. He was like, they can't get anything done. I can. Therefore, I am a heterosexual man who has sex with other men, and I have liver cancer. Right. Belize proves that wrong by being a homosexual who does make change. He steals what we are told is like a lifetime supply of AZT that he intends to spread amongst the masses. Right.
Hey, I don't think I've ever thought of it that way. So
I didn't think of it that way until this very moment.
That's great. I was going to say I'm impressed, which sounded really offensive to be like, wow, a smart thought from you. I'm impressed. But I just mean to say, like, if you think about how much you and I have thought about this play, like how many hours we have spent not just watching it, but just probably like idly thinking about it. Like, it is amazing to have a new thought at all. And so like, I genuinely am impressed that like, I really feel like you like broke ground on that. And I was like, holy shit, that's like new. I am impressed.
It absolutely might be. And I'm sure Kushner will listen to this and be like, Matthew Kopp.
Yeah, duh. Yeah, exactly.
He's going to be like, yeah, duh. And then I'm also going to come for you for saying that my West Side Story screenplay has too much air in it. But I'm like, you know what, Kushner, it's fine.
Yeah.
He also,
like, there's so much, and it's like opening a door that maybe we're not going to have time to walk down, which is totally fine. But it's like, when we were talking about like what Joe represents and what Joe represents for these judges, it's not just a person who can communicate and can pass these laws for them. Joe is America. Now, he isn't, and he betrays Roy in a way by being gay. Because he's like, no, you're not allowed to be gay. You're the guy. You're the Marlboro Man. You're not allowed to be othered. You're the otherer. Stop. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like there is a part of that too, but it's like Roy talks about it so much. And it is just true in history that like when Roy was setting up the case against the Rosenbergs, where essentially the like historical perspective on it has been they were guilty, but it was wrong. Like everything they did in order to reach that verdict has been wrong. Like that is sort of like, that has been, I guess, essentially the like history's viewpoint on it. Now, I'm sure somebody's going to listen to me this and be like, how dare you say that? That's slander. I'm not saying what I think or whatever. I'm just saying that this is like when you pick up a fucking history textbook, this is what I was going to say.
There are basically two schools of thought on the Rosenberg case, which is either it was not right, nor was it okay. And then there are people who go, it was not okay, but it was right.
Right. And so like the way that like a lot of people talk about it is that basically like there was a lot of proof and it is probably all true, but like there was like false testimony and and then Roy Cohn pressured her, as well as Ethel Rosenberg's brother to perjure himself and say things he knew wasn't true. And even though he tried to walk it back, it was too late. But there was an intentional thing done by Roy on purpose where he made sure that the judge was Jewish and that he, as the persecutor, was Jewish, and that much of the jury, like he, like, I mean, again, these are all things that are, you're not allowed to stack the fucking jury the way that you want it to be. But again, this was all on purpose because he was trying to prove that it isn't about
Judaism. It's about communism.
It's not about the otheredness, right? It's not like you can't just point your fingers at me and say like, well, you're only saying that because you are this othered thing. You are the Jew. He's saying like, well, look, if we can all say this and we're the good ones, we can all agree. If we're all saying this, those must be the bad ones.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, there's a very interesting element there too of like, in his death, Belize and Roy talk so much about identity. And specifically identity in America. And like Roy's perspective on it is, well, I can get anyone to do anything I want. I can bully anybody into anything. But that post his death, people said a lot of really hateful things about him. And some of it I'm sure is deeply justified because he was an extremely hateable guy. But also some of it was deeply prejudiced. There were a lot of people reveling in the fact that he died of AIDS and they were like, I fucking got him, saying, you know, really disgusting things about just gay people in general and using his death as an excuse to say these prejudiced things because he was such a bad guy that it gave him an excuse to say the mean things they wouldn't have said otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Did other things about being Jewish. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like I don't know. I wish I was smarter. Because I feel like I'm really close to saying something smart.
Well, Ali, how smart can you be? You are a woman, but
and my tits are so big. They take up so much they take so much blood. You know what I'm saying? There's so much blood going there.
Listen, no, girl, I've got the biggest dick, and that blood rushing to it does not affect my brain one bit. Except
not
when
at all.
Well, I made some bad sexual decisions in my past, but it made me write a play. So how bad could it have been? But it's like when Ethel's telling about the disbarment hearing and how they voted 1, 2, 3, and like everyone was there, like everyone,
right, and they all fucking hate him. Yeah,
they wanted to get it done before he died because they wanted to humiliate him. And she says one of the members on the committee said to the other, "Thank God I've hated that little faggot for 40 years." And it is both poetic justice and just pure homophobic hatred,
right?
But like it's this meshing of that because in some ways you're like, yeah, he gets what he deserves, but also it's not like that person's an ally to the community. They're using this slur against him, which is they also know will undercut him.
Right. But it's an excuse to use it because, well, we're saying about somebody who's horrible. Yeah. But it's like, that doesn't give you access to that well of hatred. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why are you drawing water from that well? I mean, like the very interesting, Roy Cohn has an AIDS quilt patch that was made by an anonymous person. We still don't know the artist. That says bully, coward, victim. And that's made by somebody in the community. And I mean, like, that shows such an unbelievably nuanced understanding.
Yeah.
To come from somebody who is directly harmed from him, it really shows wow, like what a deeply nuanced understanding of the situation.
According to World Only Spins Forward, the organizers of the quilt met with the person who made that patch because they were like, we're not going to put it on the quilt unless you can confirm for us that like you knew Roy, that this isn't like a political statement. This is, and they were like, and so they did not reveal who the person was, but they spoke with the person and they got proof from the person that this was someone who knew Roy Cohn very well. Most likely it was like a former boyfriend or something.
That was also reiterated there was a documentary that came out not that long ago that was called Bully, Coward, Victim. Very similarly, where the person who was making this documentary wanted to use that as the title, but was also like, I do want to make sure that like that's cool, and did go through some channels and was able to talk to this person who made the patch, who wanted to continue to remain anonymous, but was like, use the words, essentially. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's Belize is, I think, the only character who says to Roy's face that he's gay, without being like, you know that you're gay, right? It's I think Roy calls him a fag, and Belize is like, yeah, one fag to another, something like that, and then winks at him. What I was also going to say was, you know, I don't have time for agoraphobic hatred. I do think that words have meaning. So if I use a hateful word, it's because I really mean it about a person. To maybe quote my own soon-to-be Pulitzer-winning play, when you see a gopher acting like a gopher, what choice do you have to say but that's a gopher?
Right.
And like there are billions of people on this earth, and there are people like Roy Cohn who were absolutely, to use the K word, a cunt, and just like awful, despicable, and sometimes as eloquent as you want to be, as insightful and educated as you want to be. You want to say pole star of human evil like Lewis. Sometimes you're like, no, that's a fucking dick. Like, it's just...
Yeah. But it's also just a very interesting thing where, like, he is such a fucking monster.
Yeah.
But you do see in his final moments that, like, you cannot bully yourself. You cannot bully your way out of the othered identity.
Yeah. And what
you can try, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can legislate and silence and punish and be punitive and evil, and you can do a lot of stuff, but that, like, ultimately it doesn't save you from when people see you as not the American.
And also,
he did everything in his fucking life and power to be seen as that guy, the untouchable guy. And it's like, you know, the minute that anybody had the opportunity to undercut him, everybody took the opportunity to undercut him.
Yeah. When you don't have... So he is the toxic evil version of Joe, whereas Joe uses kindness and sweet, or when Joe uses niceness and sweetness and mayonnaisiness to get through life without ruffling any feathers. He has no ties to anybody, and thus no one to really support him when he comes out and it talks about, you know, his true self. Roy has gone through life with a razor blade, cutting at everybody and getting away with it. And so when he's finally in a moment where he needs support, no one's there for it. Because this disbarment hearing could have gone away, but no one likes him. Everyone was scared of him, and now that he was in a position of vulnerability, everyone jumped. And it's him realizing that he truly had nothing to connect him to this world. Ethel saying, you know, you're dying in shit, and it's the ultimate poetic justice.
Right.
I want to talk a little bit more about Roy and Joe in just a quick second, but first let's take another break.
Billy, I beg to differ with you. How do you mean? You're the top. Yeah. You're an arrow color. You're the top. You're a Coolidge dollar. You're the nimble tread of the feet of Fred.
And we're back. There's always a question with Roy and Joe of if Joe comes out to Roy and Roy freaks out, but one wonders if Roy Cohn kind of smelled that in Joe to begin with.
I think a little, but again, it's just like he was the all-American proxy.
But I think what I'm getting at is there's a lot of, you know, fatherly Oedipal complex with the Roy and Joe stuff of Joe finally having a father figure who believes in him and shows him affection, and someone in power who he looks up to who says, no, you can do good. And Roy seeing Joe and being like, oh, this will be my legacy. This person will carry on my name, and I will live on in this corn-fed, you know, Mormon guy who sticks to my values. There's also something about it's in the way that Al Pacino caresses Patrick Wilson, in the way that Nathan Lane, you know, gets up close and personal with Russell Tovey and Lee Pace, where it's like, so when we did Doubt, and I remember when I did the Downstate episode with Itai, we talked about predators, as both of those plays had predators. and Angels in its own way has a predator in Roy. And one of the weird things about pedophilic predators, especially on the queer front, is how many of them have this like sixth sense of sniffing out the kid who might be more lenient and not say anything in a moment of abuse, right? It's something that is discussed in Doubt with the mom of the boy who's sort of on trial for this whole thing, and saying like, it's possible that my son is like that. And when Sister Eloise is like, well, didn't your husband beat your son because he thought that he drank from the communion wine? She's like, he beats him every day because he's like a sissy. Right. And then in Downstate, the piano teacher who abused his two students, one we don't ever get to meet, but we find out he's living in Paris with a husband. And the other one is the one who we do meet, who has a wife and a kid. And there is a gray area about this guy's sexuality, because like the way he is with his wife, and they talk about their sex life and the trauma that he has, but also just his insistence on wanting to confirm that he was special to this piano teacher who abused him and caused him so much trauma. But still, it's like, part of you wonders, if this didn't happen to this man, would he have been able to guide himself to a healthy, open, queer lifestyle if he was queer? And it's almost like Roy can sniff out in Joe the otherness in him. Whether that's queer or whatnot, I don't know. But you see in a lot of Roy's, when they have that scene at the bar with Joe talking about the disbarment, hearing all that, it's an intimacy that's not fatherly. It's an intimacy.
I agree with that.
Similar to how Lewis is like, my friends call me Louise. Anything about that you like? It's like Roy kind of testing the water with touch, physical touch, of like, how comfortable is he when I touch him here? How comfortable is he when I touch him here? And
there's also, I think, in Al Pacino's performance of that scene specifically, he is being so sympathetic. Like when Roy is talking about his dad, when Joe is talking about his dad, he's like listening in such a way and like making sounds of like understanding and like, you know what I mean? Like empathetic. Yeah. And he's like touching it. Do you know what I mean? Like he's really
your dad loved you. I know this. Yeah, baby.
Yes. And it's like, it does not feel like going to like a trusted adult and being like, oh God, I'm so sorry to hear that, son. Do you know what I mean? Like he's locked in with him in a way that is intimate beyond just like, don't worry, I'm listening. I'm a good ear for advice. Do you know what I mean? Like there's something else going on there.
Yeah. And it's justified in the added scene that Kushner put in Perestroika when Roy's ghost haunts Joe and they end up having a kiss. And he says to him, show me what you learned out there in the world. And part of you wonders, again, the brilliance of good writing where you can play it so many different ways. When Joe tells Roy, I'm living with a man right now, and Roy hears that, there's a lot going on. There's the, you idiot, you were supposed to be the golden boy, and now you're like, first you won't go to Washington, and now this, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then also the like, I was right to have an instinct about you, and you wouldn't fuck me, but you're fucking some other random dude out there. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. I think there is a little bit of that in the physical fight they have at the end of Millennium Approaches too.
Oh yeah.
A little bit of the jealousy, a little bit of the, how dare you do this without me? Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's all I really had to say about Roy. We didn't really touch much on Pryor and Lewis. They both were discussed a lot in the last episode, as well as Hannah. But I mean, I don't know, any things about Pryor or Lewis you want to say?
I mean, I need to start wrapping up, so I don't want to crack anything too much. But we were texting about something, and you were like, "Stop, save it for the pod," because that's very true of us. To just like start talking and then be like, "This is an interesting little tidbit." But you were talking about just like as you've gotten older and just like how you prefer to see like a Pryor played.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about how we'd seen now Steven Spinella, Christian Borle, Justin Kirk, and Andrew Garfield. Which we haven't talked about. We haven't talked to Andrew Garfield at all.
I've already talked enough about Andrew Garfield in the last episode, and I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay, because I want to just say, for the record, I sort of had to go on an Andrew Garfield apology tour later in my life because I've now seen him in so many things that I have genuinely thought he's amazing in. But after I saw Angels, I was like, oh, this is the worst actor who's ever lived. And I told everyone that. Do you know what I mean? Like I went out of my way to be like, don't fucking see that movie. That guy's the worst actor who's ever lived. And I have now seen him in enough things where I've had to just like walk that statement back and be like, the guy is really good. He's very charming. He's a great actor. I just don't know what happened. I don't know what happened there.
He should never have done it, is my honest opinion.
But you don't think that that's a failure of like directing or something? How can somebody who has proven himself to be that good and sensitive of an actor, how could that have happened?
It's a failure on all parts because Kushner wanted him. Kushner personally asked him.
Okay.
He said yes, and Marion directed him. I don't particularly find Marion Elliott a phenomenal director of actors. I think she's not a bad one. I don't think that's her MO. I think what she does, she tends to cast really well, and then she's good at getting everyone on the same page. But if in the productions of hers that I have seen, there's usually one or two performers where I'm like, oh, you're missing some of the nuances that everyone else is getting. I felt it in Company. I felt it in Warhorse and Curious Incident. She technically speaking co-directed Death of a Salesman that came here, but I don't think she oversaw it when it was here. And I really hated that Death of a Salesman. I thought it was so British and analytical, with some really terrible supporting performances. But what I said to you was being introduced to Angels with Justin Kirk and then seeing other versions since then. And then, as I said, like watching the 40 minutes of the OBC with Steven and everyone, like cracking my mind open of like, oh, fuck, this is similar to Joe with the Jacob portrait. I'm like, this is what makes sense to me the most about anything. Like these words have never been funnier. These words have never been, more emotional. It all just sort of cracks wide open. And I mentioned this also with the clip of Andrew Scott doing the park bench scene for the National Theater thing.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. That's another person who's an amazing actor, who's proven himself to be an amazing actor, but like I just thought it was so misguided.
Oh, and see, I disagree because
I don't like his take.
I don't like Dominic Cooper's Lewis.
Oh, and I don't like his Lewis either.
And I think what makes that scene not great for me is that it is so uneven. I think that Andrew is doing what I want, or most of what I want, but he's not getting anything. So a lot of it just sort of feels inorganic because it's like I'm watching half of someone doing something that I like and nothing's on the other side. So
yeah.
I
wonder if I would have liked that performance more with like something to bounce off of, because my gut reaction was that that I was crazy about that.
Yeah. Like if he was doing it even off of like Ben Shankman, it would have been far more good. But what I said was, I don't need a gay man to play Pryor, but I can always tell when a straight man plays it. And I am one of the homosexuals out here who doesn't think that like, you must only play the sexuality you identify with. Sexuality is fluid, and you can learn a lot about yourself by being in someone else's shoes. The number of female friends I have who consider themselves straight and then like played a queer role and they're like, oh, I think I'm actually bisexual. Oh, actually,
totally.
No, I've come to realize I'm a lesbian. I'm like, oh, wonderful. These things do happen. With Andrew at the time,
you, that journey is, as the rabbi says.
Yes, exactly. At the time of his performance, I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because I did not like it in the broadcast and I liked him a little more live. And at the time, what I'd said was, it's like he's an alien who came to Earth, wrote down all the things homosexuals did and brought it back to his home planet. He's not technically speaking wrong. It just doesn't fit on his skin. Rewatching it with Alex, and Alex was far more into him than I was like, oh no, I genuinely hate this performance. And it's ultimately that and him choosing to work with Mel Gibson have been the two things that have always poisoned the Andrew Garfield well for me. So no matter how good or dreamy he is in other stuff, there's always something removing me from it. And so like him in Tick Tick Boom, I'm like, that's a good performance. I'm not invested because I can't do it.
I mean, like, I guess what I'm saying is I've seen him now in so many things that I thought he was great in, that I had to like genuinely be like, hey, remember when I was like, never go see a movie that Andrew Garfield is in? That was the worst performance ever. I guess I have to like walk that back and say sorry. Yeah. Because like,
no, he is good.
He is really good.
He's a good actor.
In other things.
Yeah. I remember, but I had asked someone, because it was when Tick Tick Boom came out, and I was like, I asked him, who is now a former friend, not because of this, but I should have known then that we weren't. Wouldn't
that have been funny though if you were like, and he said this about Andrew Garfield and we never talked
it's what he
again.
said about. It's what my friend said about me. Because I had said I can't get into Andrew Garfield, and I don't know why. I hadn't made this discovery yet that like this was all tied together. Because I was like, I recognize that he's talented. He's a handsome dude. He seems like a genuinely kind person. Yeah. Why can't I get on board with him? Why don't I trust it? And this person said to me, well, it's like, in a lot of ways, he's you if you were at all successful. And I thought that was so cruel and also so misguided, because I do not see myself in Andrew Garfield at all. He is a movie star. But that is, when I heard that, I was like, oh, that is both very mean and very untrue. So let me actually do some soul searching, because I'm not going to get it from external forces. I have to figure out for myself what it is. It was very much a Joe Pitt journey. I can't get it from anyone else. I can't get the validation from anyone outside of me. So I have to search within myself. And I realized, oh, I never fully got over that he chose to work with Mel Gibson when he, had the clout to pick projects, and he was like, yeah, I don't mind that. And I really hated his performance in Angels in America. And those two combined have always left a bad taste in my mouth. And it's something that always lives within my DNA. But going back to someone like Justin Kirk gets a lot of humor out of the movie, but it's more the same kind of humor that he did in something like Weeds, where it's more like a dry wisecrack. It's less of an effeminate former drag queen camp element. And part of that is the Mike Nichols approach. Nichols definitely took a lot of the camp out of Angels in America and made it more prestige-y. But I watch, you watch just the 10 minutes of Spinella and you're like, oh, that is gay and that is fire. And that's why I can't wait to go to the library to watch it. But it's why I wish I had seen Michael Urie replace Borle at the Signature, because I'm sure that was incredible. But so I watch Andrew in that broadcast again, and I just it's not ill intent. He is doing it wholeheartedly, which is why it doesn't make me hate him. It just makes me go, I don't like any of this, and this should never have happened. And I still get angry at that Tony win, because I just have to be like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
And I know people who still talk highly of his performance in that, and I'm like, I can't fully take you seriously. It's just I felt this. I don't. It's hard to say that and not sound like a dick, because Alex and I debated this, and Alex really liked Andrew's performance, but he was describing it in such an analytical, here's how you can sort of justify it in this as this kind of take. And I was like, no, just because on a chemical level, I'm watching it, I'm going, this is all false, and it's making me angry.
That is, if it makes you feel any better, that's exactly how I felt. None of it really truly felt sincere to me. Even the moments of high drama and emotion, where he obviously was feeling an emotion. It wasn't bad acting. He was feeling something, but I couldn't tell what the fuck he was feeling. It was unparsable, unhuman emotions that I just did not understand. I did not understand his take on the character in the slightest. So again, if you're listening to this and you're from the Andrew Garfield stan army, please know I've seen him in other things and I think he's great in them, but I did not feel that way in Angels.
He's great in Social Network. I think what it is Pryor already goes through everything in Angels in America on every level of theatricality and human emotion that you can. Goes through loss, goes through pain, goes through joy, goes through, an angel bursting through his window, meeting prophets, all this stuff. On top of all that, is sick, close to dying, comes back from
abandoned by his partner. Yeah, totally.
All of these things. And that is already a marathon you have to get through. To then on top of that, have to figure out through physicality, voice, and mannerisms, how to portray an effeminate gay man without seeing a stereotype. That makes it become the idea of a performance and not a performance for me.
Yeah.
And so when you have someone like a Urie or a Spinell, where it's no, I know what it's like to put my arms up and my wrists just naturally flop, or my voice already has a light lisp to it. That is something I don't have to think about. I can think about all the other stuff now, and it removes the wheels from your brain and allows that part to just live free. And so for Andrew, that everything felt false, because even though he was, diving into these well of emotions that were, I'm sure, very true to him, everything just came off as performative in a way that made me frustrated. So that was that.
Yeah. I mean, there is a line that is delivered shockingly differently by both Stephen Spinella and Justin Kirk, which is when in the scene where Lewis and Pryor are talking about the afterlife, after they're talking about the Bayou Tapestry and all that, where Pryor sort of flippantly tells Lewis that he's being Trooper of the Year, and then Lewis starts to cry, and then Pryor goes, "I take it back, you're not Trooper of the Year." Those lines could not be delivered more differently. The way that Stephen Spinella and Justin Kirk do it, are truly if one is 1 and one is 100, they are on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of how it's delivered. Both are exceptionally effective. Both get a laugh. Both feel really real to the characters that they're playing. They're just I'm sure there's a million examples of this, but that's one that just truly stands out to me in terms of being so different in how they're delivered, but so effective in both ways. You just see such a confident take on who this man is and how he deals with the world, just so fully. Do you know what I mean? You're just oh yeah, that's a real person.
Yeah, I think the way that Justin Kirk kind of gets around it is he does not go for super effeminate, which again, in hindsight, is not my favorite, but it allows all the emotions that he's portraying and all the humor that he portrays to carry through much more naturally, because he's not working extra hard to be someone he's not. He's leaning into the sensitive sides of himself that can work for the character. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes. And you and I were talking about this, where it's I do really feel Son of Wasps when I watch Justin Kirk's Pryor. 1000%. And I was sort of being a little, I guess I was more on the defending end of his performance when we were talking about it briefly over text, where I was saying I see in his performance someone who is locking down on a part of himself from his past. Because in the scene where Belize and Pryor are talking, and Belize mentions that Pryor used to do drag, and he's that's behind me now. Justin Kirk says that very defensively.
Yeah.
He's not oh, I don't really do that anymore. He's he shuts that conversation down. Let's not talk about that anymore. And you're oh, that's interesting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I that raises more questions than not when I see him deliver that line, where I'm just oh, that's interesting. That's a part of your past that you are not open to discussing right now. What happened? Why? What's going on? Do you know what I mean? There's just an interesting question there. And it feels very in line with his character, who's a little more dry and perhaps is not as ebullient in his I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
The tie that I always made, and then I want to get to the final question with you so we can wrap things up. The tie I don't say always, that I have made recently with that is, since Belize and Pryor both used to be drag queens, Pryor doesn't do it anymore. Unclear just how long ago he stopped it, but it definitely, it hasn't been years. It's probably at least 6 months, at most a year and a half, probably around that pocket of time. It is shown to us, it's not really talked about in the miniseries. They cut this exchange between Lewis and Belize, but the diner scene where Lewis is talking about democracy in America, just going on this whole rampage and saying race isn't actually an issue in America because race isn't real, or he says about race what we talk about with gender, it's a construct, and Belize is so he's say that to your one black friendish, don't do that. But in the play, there's the exchange where he's well, as a ex drag, he's as a drag queen, we have a concept of, and Lewis goes, no, ex drag queen, and Lewis goes XX. And Lewis is you're doing drag again?
Yeah.
It's I find it sexist. I think drag is totally sexist. And what's the line he says? He's I think the gay community has to adopt towards drag queens the same way black women have to towards black women blues singers, which is one of those phenomenally tone deaf bonkers lines.
Yeah, you're just you're trying to follow his logic. You're where did this come from?
And I love the shot of Jeffrey Wright's take on it, where he uncrosses and recrosses his legs because he's what did I just hear?
Yeah, and there's a moment where he's I'm going to get into it, and then he's I'm actually not going to get into it. Yeah. And he recrosses his legs.
And he just says, oh boy, we are walking dangerously tonight.
Oh my God. And I think I'm going to rewatch it immediately after we get off this phone
Rewatch it. But Lewis says that he objects to drag on a moral level. And I think it's more than that. I think Lewis also doesn't find Pryor sexy when he does drag. And
so do you think he hasn't done it since they started dating? Because that's 4 years.
I don't think it's since they started dating. I think it was probably halfway through their time. That's why I'm 6 months to a year and a half, because they were probably together for 2-ish years. Because Pryor didn't do drag regularly, from what I understand.
Wait, they do say how long they've been together in the last scene in Perestroika, where he talks about how long he's been alive since his AIDS diagnosis, and he goes, and that's 6 months longer than I lived with Lewis.
He and Lewis lived together for 4.5 years. maybe they were together for 5 years or 6 years. But I don't think the play specifies when Pryor quit drag.
Sure. I was just saying that, like, I think that gives a good insight into, like, when this could have been an inflection point in their relationship.
And according to Kushner's character notes, Pryor's income mostly comes from he's sort of freelance club designer and planner, so he gets money that way. But he also has a trust fund that he has been very good about spending wisely. So it's like he lives modestly, but he lives well. And between that and the club gigs that he chooses when he wants to, like, drag was more sort of a pastime for him and not a living.
Yeah, it was a fun expression, not I have to get this gig in order to pay my rent.
Yeah, and so he probably didn't do it that often. And there must have been a moment, I like to think there was a moment in his relationship with Lewis where it was negatively affecting them. And Lewis claimed it was for political reasons, but ultimately it was like Lewis couldn't get sexy for Pryor because he just didn't find Pryor sexy as a drag queen. And
I think this is very interesting.
And you see, like, Lewis kind of making this huge shift from Pryor to Joe, who has all of this emotional baggage, but on a physical level is like such a man. And and it's possible that Lewis is versatile. It's implied that Lewis is a bottom, and Spinella says in World Only Spins Forward that Pryor is also a bottom. I like to think that the two of them reverse, but I made the joke with Alex, like, their relationship is what happens when two bottoms get together. But yeah, it's like ultimately one of them had to be the puzzle piece with the other one, and they made a lot of concessions, and Pryor probably made a lot of concessions for Lewis. And again, it's just sort of the AIDS diagnosis is revealing all of the weaknesses that were already there.
Right.
He tells Belize like watching Lewis get worked up over something was like such an amazing show for him, but his mother said, well, if that's how he acts on the small things, the big things are going to fucking ruin him.
Right. And they did.
And they really did. We got to wrap things up. So, Ali, first of all, thank you for coming on. You're always a delight.
Thank you for letting me do this. I genuinely mean that, because, like, this is such a huge piece, and I have no real authority. I just really love it.
Yeah. None of us
so
have
it was
authority.
it was just, I mean, you do talk to people who have, like, been parts of, I was on that show, or I did this, so I'm really just speaking from, I'm just in it for the love of the game. Yeah. But I do really love this game, so I appreciate you letting me sort of.
But those are my favorite. Those are my favorite episodes. The episodes that bring me the most joy are the ones with my freak nerd friends who love the thing, have researched the thing, and can talk about the thing.
I am a freak nerd, so.
With the hugest of tits.
Yes, and no longer chemically straightened hair.
Thank God, Eponine hair back and forth.
That's what they were talking about when they said the world only spins forward.
When
she was like, in this life, there's a kind of painful progress, longing for the straight hair we left behind, but embracing the curly hair ahead. That's what she was talking about, me learning I had curly hair and sort of like having to figure that fucking out.
And
me being
yourself.
Like, am I just a product of the 2000s? Pencil thin brows and absolutely straight hair, and do you know what I mean?
We're all a product, and we don't want to admit it. But the moment you admit it, the sooner you can change your factory settings.
Exactly.
Before we close out, I do want to do a quick off the cuff with you. Dreamcasting Angels in America, future production, and it can be anyone in any role. If you want to get super creative, you can be like this person at this time of their life. But
okay, well, I only really one answer to this question.
Okay,
because I wish I had more, but I'm so weird in particular about the show that I don't know if I have a ton of like Dreamcast for it. I think Betty Gilpin is an amazing idea for Harper. Like that really, I was like, I got excited about that. Yeah. Did you ever see Skeleton Twins? With Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig? Okay. Bill Hader in that movie, at around that time of his life, maybe a little younger, he would have been an amazing Pryor. He would have had a really, really interesting take on that character.
Probably. I mean, first of all, incredibly smart, funny, and intuitive man.
A very good actor. He's really proven himself over time to really have the chops. And in that movie, I was like, I see a Pryor. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the movie's fine. I'm not going to be like, holy shit, you got to like do everything in your power to stop and watch that movie. It's like, it's a totally fine movie. But when I was watching that movie, I was largely distracted. This is probably 10 years ago already. But even 10 years ago, I was like, I'm fucking watching a guy who's got a great take on Pryor. Like, I wish I could like pause time and like change reality and like let him just sort of have a fucking shake at it. Because now he's too old for it, so it's too much.
It is.
But again, when funny people play that role, you don't lean too hard into the drama. You really embrace what naturally sings and clips along about that script, because when you're
Yeah.
a funny person, you understand tone and pace. And I think he would have been really great.
Would Bill Hader as Roy Cohn be a little too clown makeup-y? Would like that be a
I
little
don't
too much?
know.
I don't know.
I guess like sometimes I feel like I am more forgiving of just people who I like. Like I remember when Nathan Lane was announced, people were like, ugh, what the fuck? And I, in my heart, was like, he's gonna fucking kill it. I know he's gonna kill it.
Yeah.
And of course, like I am really biased because like I fucking love him.
Yeah.
But I was right, so
Yeah.
it's all good.
But
But
I
you know what I mean? I think I'm maybe more inclined to be forgiving of people I like already.
If you don't try too hard to make them look like the person, so like if you're not trying to do any kind of specific makeup to be like, we got to make him transform into Roy Cohn. It's like, no, just, give us the essence of Roy and let Bill Hader be Bill Hader. Then maybe I think that'd be fun.
Because one something he does really well that I did not know he could do until Barry is he can be quite frightening. There's sort of a deadness behind the eyes that I didn't know he was capable of, and I think that would be really interesting for Roy.
I'm going to offer an olive branch to people about Pryor and the homosexuality of it all, and say, I know he's a little played out right now because of Oscar season and he's coming to Broadway this spring, but like I would give Kieran Culkin a chance to play Pryor and see how that heterosexual
I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued. I'm not like, okay, 100% this is correct, but like I certainly would watch the fucking audition tape.
Yeah, because like
also what is really fun about him is he's mean.
He is mean.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's what he brings naturally to the table as an actor. And I'm not saying that he as a man is mean. I'm sure he's a perfectly nice guy, but he understands how to deliver a line in a way that is like so mean that nobody even understands it was mean. He like really gets that. And I think that's also a really interesting take on Pryor, because Pryor's a very smart guy.
He's very smart. Well, yeah, intelligence can give you, when you're a certain heightened intelligence, especially when you work as a drag queen and you have to be on your toes all the time and on the defense all the time, you have, as Bianca Del Rio calls, like that Rolodex of hate, and you can spot the weakness, find a super witty line about it, and cut it to the quick. And I think when I think of him in Succession, which is a show that I admire but don't like very much, his character, like, he is not a gay man, but the way he goes about being this little bundle of fucktard is he is impish about it. And I think that impishness is where Pryor lives.
He also gets accused of being gay a lot in the show.
Yeah. Oh, does he? I don't remember that. I just remember them all saying
his dad is always being like, what are you, a little queer? Do you know what I mean? It's very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
They don't really answer that question, but they do. It does come up. It's put on the table quite a few times. Never being like, come out and we'll love you. It's like always like very hatefully said. But it is interesting.
Yeah, my memory of that show is when things like that are said, it is just like a taunt to anyone. I don't remember it being only him, but I just remember.
Maybe I'm wrong because I'm not like a super fan, but I did. But I think it was very specifically an insult saved for him.
Sure.
I don't remember him ever saying that to like Kendall. I don't ever remember him being like, "You're gay" to Kendall. Like I don't think that ever came up.
No.
But I do think it was specifically for his character. Like
Kendall made babies, so that's in their eyes.
That's what I'm saying, and that's also like, not to track back to that thing where like I do think there's an amazing acting moment of Patrick Wilson's when she's like, "I'm having a baby." There's a flash of happiness and hope, and then he kills it and he goes, "Liar." Yeah, but it's like. There's a moment there where he's like, baby, fix everything. Yeah. Me man, me have baby. Straight man make baby. Do you know what I mean? Like there is like a little thing in his brain. There's like a primitive thing in his brain where he like gets like kind of excited about that idea. And I think it's an amazing acting moment.
Listen, I may not be a relationship therapist, and Ali may just have been married to one person so far. But I want to say this.
Architect of my downfall.
To anyone wherever you are in your relationship, if you get to a point where one of you says, we should try to make a baby, I think that'll really help.
Yeah, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, baby.
End it now. I don't care if you're like, no, we're the exception. No. End it. Babies are not the decision to have a baby should be like, are we financially ready? Do we think we're emotionally ready?
A baby has never fixed anything. I just want to say that.
Never, not once, not Maggie in a chorus line, not the fake baby in Angels in America. Just the moment you go, and the baby is like the ultimate extreme, but the moment you're like, oh, I think a dog could maybe help us. Or like if we moved apartments, it's like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
The moment you're like, I think this would really fix or help our relationship, it's like you're already doomed. So so don't make the mistake of Joe and Harper and just get on that night flight to San Francisco, baby. It'll help you see the ozone get repaired, even if it's just a vision.
Even if it's just a vision.
Even if it's just a vision.
A lapsed prophet.
A prophet who fell through the paperwork. Ali Gordon.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you if you want them to find you?
Do you know when this is going to air? Do you have any idea?
Probably like 3 weeks.
Okay.
End of February.
So if this is end of February, if you are in and around LA, a musical that I wrote lyrics for and worked on music for, but I don't really write music, with my writing partner, Angela Parrish, is going up at the Hudson Theater. And then it is going to Australia. So if you want to see it in Los Angeles, it'll be the 7th and 8th of March. And then it'll be at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. And then it'll be in Sydney. And Melbourne is like late March. And then Sydney is April 2nd. It's a one night only event. So the musical is called Gross Profits. It's really fun. It's a Tin Can Brothers project, but we're on it to write music. And I'm understudying in the show, which is why I'm going to Australia. So hopefully you won't see me because hopefully I will not be called on to understudy, but that is why I will be there. And that's that.
That's amazing. Congrats, baby.
I'm psyched.
I am very proud of you and proud for you. I am so secure with myself that I look at your success and I go, my God.
Well, you're going to be doing your play in Australia next year.
I wrote a play?
Did you write a play? Actually, I think I must have been confusing you with somebody else.
I think you're mistaking me with Adam Driver. So I was trying to think.
Also, Michael Urie, if you're listening to this, we are your 2 number 1 fans. I know we don't see you and stuff, but seeing you and stuff doesn't matter.
No.
It's about how we feel about you inside. And I just want you to know we witnessed you be born on Ugly Betty, and we love you. We love you so much.
You were my high school senior year quote in Ugly Betty.
Wow, there you go.
I have no regrets because it's who I was then. It's what made me become the person I am now, which maybe I should be regretful for. Ali, where can people find you? I told you where they can find you is Instagram, Facebook, anything like that.
Yeah, I guess you can find me on Instagram. I put my Twitter on. I put my Twitter on private because Twitter really was fucking freaking me out.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't I feel like I'm a step away from deleting it, and this was my intermediary step to deleting it was just putting my things on private or locked.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
I say just delete it.
I think I'm going to. I think I was just sort of I think I wasn't willing to pull off the Band-Aid, and I'm just slowly inching the Band-Aid off. But I think I gotta.
I'm not on it, but I've been told Blue Sky is fun because a lot of gays are on there. It's a lot of fun shit on that.
I think I might be too old to sign up for a new social media platform.
Do you know what I mean? Listen, it's why I haven't gotten TikTok. But Instagram, you are Miss Alice Nutting, yes?
Miss Alice Nutting, MSALICENUTTING. And again, you can follow that and learn more about where this musical is premiering. And if you want to see Angels in America Jr., that's called Power Trip. And I do have a TikTok for that at Power Trip Musical. And that's fun, especially if you are a person who's a theater educator and wants to learn more about it. And I would like to do this at my theater camp that I run or something. Or if you're a teenager, do you have teenagers who listen to your podcast? Do teenagers listen to this podcast?
Yes, I have discovered that they do.
Okay, well, if you're a teenager and you're I don't want to do Guys and Dolls next year, I'm sick of Guys and Dolls. You should check out Power Trip. It's really fun. And it is Angels in America Jr. in its own way.
Okay, fantastic. If you want to follow me on Instagram, only at Matt Koplik, usual spelling. If you like the podcast, you can give us a nice 5-star rating or review. Tell your friends about it. It's a lot of fun. So by the time, so the next episode will be another Angels episode with Rob W. Schneider, friend of the pod. And by that point, I will have gone to the library and I will have seen the 1994,
very exciting.
Yeah, 1994 January performance of the entire original Broadway company the week before Ron Liebman and Marcia Gay Harden left. I'm very excited to watch it. They told me at the library that they filmed it all in one day. So it was a marathon day. So
that's fun. That's really fun.
I'm excited to see it all happen. Everyone in that cast is someone who I'm well, you're just the fucking best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ali,
very exciting.
As you well know, we close out every episode with a diva. So I want you to pick our diva for the week.
Does it have to be related to this? Should it be related to this?
I mean, it doesn't have to be, but usually people pick with someone related because it's just an easy think. But No, pick whoever you want.
I'm trying to think about people who have been associated with the show who are like iconically a singer, a diva.
Well, I know that I think Alex picked Meryl's Winner Takes It All. I'm pretty sure that's what
I
we
mean,
picked
I was
for that
going to
episode.
jokingly say Last Midnight. That was my joke.
Oh, sure. I mean,
Sorry.
what if for each episode we just close out with a different Meryl performance? So it's like Meryl in the prom, Meryl
Do the prom.
This says
Can you do Meryl doing the number that she does in World that everyone's walking out of in Death Becomes Her in the movie?
I see me, can't be me. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll do that one. It's
Do that one.
Songbird, the opening number.
Songbird. God bless you for knowing that. I love you.
Okay, so we'll do Meryl in Songbird, the musical version of
Please.
Sweet Bird of Youth.
Please.
Fantastic. So we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much, Allie. Take it away, Meryl. Bye.
That's not